Hello, YouTube. This is Dark Tower Palaver. I'm Tad.
I'm Peter.
And we're here for a roundtable, number 118. I think we both tricked ourselves into thinking it was a book club this week for some reason.
I think you even said it on last week's, 2 weeks ago episode, with that we're like, okay, we'll be back with a book club when it's time for the first round to be over.
Yeah, maybe it had something to do with the March Madness thing, but somehow we tricked ourselves. But yes, it is indeed a round table. So round table 118, looking forward to a fun little round table here. So let's go ahead and hit the, I guess we're a little early. We started a little early, but I don't know. We've been late a couple times. I guess this just makes up for it, right?
When in Rome.
Yeah. So let's actually hit the intro and get rolling with the episode.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own Palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland, to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the Palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, The Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for Roundtable 118. As we were saying on the YouTube side, just before the podcast started here, we both, tricked ourselves into thinking it was actually a book club.
Yeah.
So much so that, I think I even got a document ready for the book club. So... but no, it is indeed a roundtable. After much checking, yes, we've only done one since our last book club. So we're here for episode 118. So let's go ahead and look at the calendar real quick. So in this episode, we're having our conversation about Stephen King characters who deserved better. Our top 5 on that. Then we will actually have a book club in a fortnight from now, which is book club part 14 of The Wastelands. So looking forward to that. And then next month will be both roundtable episodes. So including roundtable 119. Which is a great number, which is where we're going to be diving back in and starting over on the Dark Tower comics.
No movie to interrupt us this time.
No.
Knock on wood.
I mean...
No, if you say you want it, they won't make it. You have to pretend like you don't want it, then they'll give it to you.
Yeah. So, we're going to dive back in. I think we only ever did one episode where we did the comics back in probably 2016 or 2017. And then, obviously, stuff with the movie got so crazy, we kind of lost sight of it. But we're going to get back to it, start back at the top, and kind of go through and talk about those one at a time. So that should be fun to dive into those. So that's kind of what's coming up here in the next little bit, as well as we do have our March Madness going on right now.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking kind of maybe to have that at the end, but I guess we can just we can talk about it now as well.
Well, let's do the intro first.
Oh yeah, let's do the, but not the end of the episode. I think originally
let's do it right off the bat.
Yeah, I had it. I think I had it technically at the tail end of the episode, but well, let's go ahead and do the intro stuff real quick, and then we will dive into the March Madness. We are through round 1 now. If you're following us on YouTube, you will be familiar with where we're at because we actually did a YouTube exclusive thing the day that round 1 ended and round 2 started. There we kind of went over, I was hoping for it to be a shorter video, but it ended up like 25 minutes for YouTube. I think that's on the longer side, but
my bad.
We're podcasters. So at heart, we're podcasters. So it did end up a little bit longer, but I do think we will be able to shorten those videos down a little bit as we go because we'll have less to talk talk about, as obviously it goes from 16 to 8, so and then 8 to 4 and on and on. So yeah, keep an eye on the YouTube. We're going to be going through weekly every time that a round ends and another one begins. We're going to have an episode like that on YouTube because our episodes being every other week don't really fit very well with this. I think we only have 2 episodes during the month of March, so we're not going to obviously have and then even then our next episode, I just dropped the calendar off my screen, but even then the episode that we come back after we would have everything done would be 119, which is actually April 9th, so that would be over a week after everything ended. So it just seems like YouTube is the best place to go to have like updates, timely updates on that, but we will cover them on the episodes that we can. Luckily we have I guess we won't. The next episode will be a little bit tougher because it'll be a book club. We might just have something at the very tail end of the episode in the spoiler section to cover where we're at then. And then on episode 119, we can wrap up the whole thing. But if you want to get those updates sooner, check out the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And let's dive into the normal intros real quick. First, I want to warn you about spoilers. We do have spoilers for all the Dark Tower books. If you haven't finished the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, you may want to stick to our book clubs. In those, 95% of those episodes, we stay where we're at or before. We don't jump ahead. We do have a spoiler section we've added, but we make that very, very clear to you. If you're listening, we give you multiple warnings before we dive into that section. As well as if you're watching on the YouTube, the screen turns bright red, so it's very it'd be hard to miss the fact that we were moving into the spoiler section. So if you're not done with them, if you're like maybe meandering through book 5 right now for the first time, we're almost dead in the middle of book 3 right now, so all of our book club episodes will be safe for you to listen to. This episode will not be, as well as with the King characters that deserve better. There's probably going to be potential spoilers for a number of other King novels as well. Yeah. And then if you want to find us, you can find us on Apple Podcasting, on Spotify, Stitcher, any podcasting service. If you want to subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we would appreciate that. You can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. Everything we cover in today's episode will be linked over there. So if you want to go and read the articles that we're covering in this episode, you can do that over there, as well as you can find the new questions for new listeners if you want to introduce yourself as a new listener to the Dark Tower Palaver. If you're a part of our extended content, which is what we consider you if you listen, that's your way to introduce yourself. You can find those questions. You can answer one of them. You can answer all of them, or anything in between. So find those over there at darktowerpalaver.com, as well as our open challenges, which I think after this one, we're pretty much out of open challenges right now. Yeah. But there will certainly be more coming down the road. So keep your eye over there on the website for all those things. For all things Dark Tower Palaver, the website's a good
and of
location.
course, obviously, if you have any challenges, I mean, this top 5 characters that deserve better just sparked in my head when I was listening to one of King's books, and we'll get into that when we get into that section. If you have anything, let us know. Yeah, reach out to us and give us your idea.
We do have someone.
We'll try to give you credit.
We had someone on Twitter send us a topic that we'll be covering in the Palaver section. So that should
exactly
that should
like
be
that.
fun.
Yeah.
So then next up, last up for my section of the announcements, if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. If you do that, you'll have access to our live chat, which is always fun. It's a place where we abuse Peter during the interweek periods between the shows. So that's always fun, as well as just chatting about various things. So go ahead and support us over there. Any level gets you into that, as well as our weekly hangouts. Next episode is we're going to be doing a hangout like the day before we do our next episode, and there we're going to be doing our discussion on Hearts in Atlantis, which I'm rereading and Peter's reading for the first time.
Yeah,
so
it's going really, really well. Tad keeps checking in on me like, how far are you? And I'm like, man, I just got to this part. It's so hard because you keep bringing it up to make sure that like we're getting through it, but in time for the hangout. But man, it's so hard not to talk about it. Like I instantly want to just dive into it with you and just start saying certain things.
I will say I may have a character on my deserves better list from that, so I'm gonna have to. I might have to keep it kind of ambiguous because you're in the middle of reading it right now. But I think anyone that has read it will understand what I'm getting at. So, next up, if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the different ways to do that.
The best way to reach us is email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. Check out our shows. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Like the video, subscribe, ring the bell so you know when we're going live or when we drop new videos now. We have a couple up there. We got the Firestarter trailer. Is it a trailer or a teaser?
I think it's a teaser.
Reaction video, which was a lot of fun to make. More of that kind of stuff coming soon. We got a lot of King content coming up soon. Salem's Lot's dropping this year, right?
Yeah, that one comes out in September, so I don't know. We'll probably see a trailer or a teaser maybe in the next couple months.
And when that happens, of course, we will be doing a video for that as well. So check out our YouTube for short little videos like that. Then our social media is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Our Twitter is @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And our Instagram is darktowerpalaver, all one word, no spaces. And then check out our merchandise. It's available at tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver. We got the two different options. You got the Dark Tower Palaver proper logo, and then the one that speaks the truth, which
The
is
slanderous logo.
#Tat is terrible, which goes even above the Dark Tower because it is the truth more so than the tower is.
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's slanderous.
I think it's the truth. That's why this is on top, but Dark Tower Palaver's on the bottom.
Oh man, so yeah, that's all the announcements. So let's go ahead and let me find the slides here for the March Madness. Let's see, and then I'm gonna have to go slides only, so we disappear off the screen here. Or actually, we actually did one for the YouTube thing that I can do. That it puts us up in the bracket. Basically, it looks like we're in the bracket, but then we're on the screen.
Looks
still,
like
but you
we're
can see-
fighting, me and you, for the championship.
down.
Who's most beloved? Oh boy!
But that's definitely not what we're trying to get at here. We're just trying to we just had to get ourselves on the screen in some way that we could also actually look at the bracket because it's what we want to look at. So basically what you're seeing on the screen now is the way things lined up for round one. Round one is now over, but we've kind of talked a little bit about kind of some of the matchups and stuff. We talked about, and if you want to get a little bit further into our conversation and like predictions and all that kind of stuff, you can do that on that YouTube video that we did. But there was kind of some surprises. I think probably let's just go ahead and dive in to them here. And let me get us back to the right position on the cameras here. So what we did is we went from with the results of round one. What I did is I staged them in a way that the most the
biggest margin of victory to the smallest margin of victory.
Yeah, that's how I'm going through it. So of course Irene Tassenbaum, as much as we love her, she didn't really have a chance. In fact, as I was watching the results come in, I felt like the election night reporters, that were like looking at the the early returns and all that kind of stuff. As I was watching that, there was a good, probably almost a good chunk of the first week of the thing that Oi had all of the votes. Irene didn't even have a single vote. But as the tail end of it came through, she did get some votes, but it did end up being 92% for Oi and 8% for Irene Tassenbaum. So
we're gonna round up next round, right?
We're rounding up, but Irene did get destroyed, and not.
That was not close.
No, it wasn't close, and honestly, I'm not sure that I expected it to be.
Yeah.
Oi is certainly the largest buzzsaw in this competition, I think. So
that's because he's great.
He's going to be really hard to beat.
It's going to really break your heart when he wins. I know how much you hate him. Just want to throw him off a bridge,
Oh, more slander, huh? More
It's
slander.
not slander. You said it on the show. You wanted to throw him off the bridge.
Oh, slander. So next up, the next biggest beatdown was Jake Chambers beating Aunt Talitha 90% to 10%, basically. So, yeah, that was a pretty big beating as well. Once again, we feel bad for some of these characters, but we just knew there was going to be heavy hitters, though. Although one idea came up that maybe in one of these future marches, what we'll have to do is a bracket where we remove these large characters and maybe do a most beloved
beloved without the quartet,
without any quartet members or Flag, because he's such a beloved character as well.
But I'm okay with him being removed from.
I was going to say we can leave him in there if you don't think he's that big of a buzzsaw. We'll see what happens. But it'd be interesting to see maybe how some of these votes would go, and some of these maybe more secondary characters get a bracket built for them and see who ends up being it when it's not. Going up against Roland and
Jake and
Oi and
Eddie.
those kind of things. So poor Aunt Talitha, as much as we love her, we're right in the middle of her section right now in the book club series. They have had their first nights the dinner that night. But that is it. We haven't even had the kind of the bigger scene with her yet. So that's where we're at with this one, though, is Aunt Talitha losing to Jake Chambers. Not necessarily a surprise. Next biggest beatdown was Eddie Dean beating Ted Brodigan 90% to 10% or 11%. 89%. I'm sorry, 89% to 11%. And this one, shouldn't be as much of a surprise, but I do think it does hurt a little bit because both of us obviously are reading Hearts in Atlantis, so Ted is very fresh in both of our minds.
Yeah.
Not just his appearance in Dark Tower, but his full appearance in his own story. And I think you get a lot more. It's weird though. He's the reverse of like Father Callahan. Father Callahan, his actual story, he's almost not in, and then in the Dark Tower, he's like a massive character in comparison.
Exactly.
Ted Brodigan's kind of the flip. He's obviously way bigger in Hearts in Atlantis, and then a smaller character in the Dark Tower books. So, it was kind of heartbreaking to see Ted beat, but again, not necessarily a surprise. I wasn't necessarily going into this round thinking, oh yeah, Ted Brodigan's going to beat Eddie Dean. I don't know. I guess if I was like a degenerate gambler or something, maybe I'd vote for Ted, but that would be a most unwise bet. So next up, the next most beat was Father Callahan himself being beat by Roland Deschain, which was 13% to 87%. So again, not a super big surprise. I actually did think Father Callahan might put up more of a fight just because how much I love him. Like I think I've said on the show multiple times before, I think that his section of book 5 might be my absolute favorite portion of that book, his whole story. And like when Glenn Mazzara had said that he was potentially thinking about having a spin-off miniseries cover the Callahan stuff, that really got me excited because honestly that might be like a killer miniseries for me, and I love him as a character. So I didn't expect him to win, but I expected him to put up a bigger fight. But no, Roland made short work of him. Next up, we had the one that actually surprised Peter quite a bit, and me as well as I was watching the returns come in real time, was Susan Delgado being absolutely trounced by Susanna Dean. Susan got 24%. Susanna Dean got 76%. I think both of us going into this thought this was actually going to be a tight matchup, but no, Susanna Dean made very, very short work of Susanna Delgado, and which is crazy to me. It really is. I still am kind of shocked by it, but I don't know.
Real fast, Travis is asking where he can vote for round 2 right now. Just to put it out there for everyone, you can go to our webpage, which is darktowerpalaver.com, or any of the social medias, the Twitter at Dark Tower Pod, the Facebook.
Like on Twitter, I have a pinned post that goes to it. But ultimately, if you go to darktowerpalaver.com right now, the newest post on there will be the post for round 2.
Yep.
And you click on that, and then at the very bottom, there's a thing that says click here for the ballot, and you can go in and cast your votes.
Yeah. Glad you could be here today, Travis.
Yeah, indeed. Good to see you, Travis. Of the two
this one really caught me off guard.
Yeah, I expected it to be closer. I actually thought this would be the one that'd be down to the wire.
Yeah.
But it was not. Next up, Moses Carver actually put up a valiant fight against Randall Flagg.
He deserved to win.
And he got a 33% of the vote, where Flagg got 69% or 67%.
Yeah.
So, Flagg did win. But I was actually worried about this one as I was watching the earlier turns, because for the first 4 or 5 days, Flagg was actually getting beaten. So I was very, very troubled.
You were only troubled because you really didn't want me to gloat over it the whole time.
No, just because he's a great, lovable character. I would hate to see him be bounced in the first round with all these other ones getting such knockout performances for the main characters. For the main hero of our story to lose to Moses Carver,
stop it,
would be most tragic. So. But Moses put up a damn good fight. He was had the lead, but Randall Flagg was able to come up from behind and pull out the victory in the final number of days of the vote there. So
Mike in the chat says, "Never doubt the walking dude."
Yeah, indeed.
Shame on you for dourting him.
It worked. I mean,
you were seeing the results, and it was like,
I was like, do I not know our listeners? Are our listeners so out of the know of what should be, everyone of our listeners should know that Randall Flagg is one of the most beloved characters of all time.
Stop it. Stop. Can you slander someone by making them look good when they're a piece of shit?
No, that would be the opposite of slander. But it's not.
But it's lying still. No, it's lying about someone's character.
It's not lies. It's the total truth. Everyone loves Randall Flagg.
No one does. No, see, 34% Percent says they don't.
I think that's more just shows the credit of Moses Carver and how good of a character he is. Because I do love Moses as well. I think when it comes down to kind of those that very, very minor element of minor characters, I actually do think Moses is probably my all-time favorite. We have it broken down in our questions we ask new listeners, where we break it down like the main characters. The next level is like the ones that are like, you know,
Father Callahan
are bigger, you know, and they may cross multiple books, or they're a big part of the book that they're in.
Yeah.
The next one is like, you know, they may be in a couple books, but they're not huge in any of, like Calvin Tower.
Yeah.
And then the last one is like they're in one book, they're not even a big part of that book. They're like
almost like a cameo, almost.
And that's Moses Carver. And of that level, Moses is my winner when I answer those questions. Like I love him as a character. So I was actually pretty heartbroken to see this matchup in round one. But, you know, of course, I still want Flag to win. So, and then next up, the one that actually was the closest, or the second, or was the closest for a long time. At the very end, it ended up getting one more, ended up closer than this one. But up for a while there, this one was a lot closer. And actually, surprisingly, Shimi Ruiz was actually beating Cuthbert Allgood.
That shocked me.
Yeah, for the first 4 or 5 days, it was actually looking like Cuthbert was going down in the first round, which would be absolutely startling to me. But just like Flag, he came up in the last few days and pulled an upset. And well, I don't even know if it's an upset, really. If he's the favored one, you know, he's the one that you would assume would win, and he was behind, then he just had a comeback win, I guess. But Cuthbert won 63.5% to Shimi's 36.5%. So pretty healthy little margin, but yeah, it was looking pretty dire there for poor Cuthbert.
Like one of your favorite sub quartet characters too. So Flag and Cuthbert. Tad's over here going, ooh.
Yeah, that's a hard one. And then the last one that we had that was the closest was John Collum with 46% and Detta Walker with 54%. So Detta wins, but that was the easily the tightest of the votes from round one. So that's kind of where we ended up with all the results. I will say, going back to this one, Susan Delgado versus Susanna Dean. There's a few people that made the same comment I had in my mind, where it's, I guess, Charyu Tree wins every time. And yes, I did back up just for that comment because I forgot to say it while we had it on here.
Hashtag Tad is terrible.
And I'm not the only one. That got tweeted to us a couple times. So.
Yeah, but you could have let it go. You had to go back and do it.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's why hashtag Tad is terrible.
Okay, so then now we'll go ahead and pull up the bracket once again. Now we're looking at the bracket for round two.
Yeah.
So this is the one that is currently up for vote. If you go over to the website right now, if you're listening live, and if you grab the episode right when it posts, you probably still have some time.
This goes until Tuesday?
That's a good question. I could actually jump to the next screen real quick, which I know we're blocking now because let me just go slides only so you can see it. So this one goes till the 16th, so March 9th through March 16th. So that is the timeline you've got for this second round. And then on the 17th, we'll have our next YouTube episode where we cover the results for round two and then launch the final four. But let's go ahead and go back to the bracket, because what we're voting on right now for round two is Cuthbert Allgood versus Randall Flagg.
Cuthbert.
That's a very
heavyweight.
Hard, that's a hard choice for me. That's two of my all-time favorite characters, the star of the show, and then of course Cuthbert, easily the star of book 4. I mean, he steals the show, right? I mean, is there any doubt about that?
No.
He's the best. And then next up in the next round, Detta Walker versus Oi the Brave.
Ooh.
Again, I don't foresee Oi losing. If he does lose, I think it's going to be an upset no matter what. But I don't know. We'll see. I could be surprised. But yeah, Detta versus Oi in that round. And then next, over to the other side of the bracket, we have Eddie Dean versus Jake Chambers. So Quartet member versus Quartet member. Eddie Dean versus Jake. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
As well
Two
as
brothers, basically.
Yeah, and then the last one for this round is Roland Deschain versus Susanna Dean. So once again, Quartet versus Quartet. I mean, I guess if you wanted to count Detta as part of the Quartet, we've got 3 of the 4 matchups are Quartet versus Quartet.
Yeah.
Oi versus Detta, and then
Cuthbert is Roland's first quartet.
Yeah, going against Flag.
And then you got that one freak that doesn't even deserve to be in here. Let's just go ahead and just kick him out now.
I mean, maybe Flag wins. I mean, he did get the better of Cuthbert the last time they met up on Jericho Hills, so. Too soon? But
a little bit.
It does make him stand out, though. Flag, everybody else is quartet members, unless you want to count Dana Walker. It depends on if you count her as part of the quartet or not. Because when she is a standalone character, she's certainly more of the antagonist, not necessarily part of the quartet. So that is that's the bracket that we have right now. You have until, as we showed, you have until the 16th.
Travis says that he went to the website and only let him vote for round 1, but I just went and looked at it. The form that you click on is for round 2. Just forgot to change it to from round 1 to round 2.
Oh, did I not change the name?
No, the name is wrong, but
okay.
the matchups are correct. We still have Cuthbert versus Randall Flagg, Detta versus Oi, Eddie versus Jake, Roland versus Susanna. So
yeah,
it does say round 1. You are right, Travis, but just that'll get fixed before the show even drops. We'll see that fixed later today.
Yeah, I'll fix that once the live show's over here.
Also, he says that he loves the Aaron Paul as Eddie. Yeah, if you haven't voted yet, I highly recommend it. Tad did do some Dreamcasts. Aaron Paul as Eddie is a good one. Also used what's his name? Skarsgård from the Stand miniseries.
Yeah, Alexander Skarsgård.
Alexander.
Yeah, I used him.
I knew it was a Skarsgård. I just don't remember which one.
There was a couple I had to get creative with because there's people that haven't been cast, such as John Cullum. I had put Ed Harris.
Yeah.
So that
you did for Moses Carver. You did Danny Glover.
Danny Glover. Yeah. Figured if he was too old for this shit 25 years ago, he's old enough to be Moses Carver.
Was there any others from round 1 that you did? Irene Tassenbaum. You did
Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore.
Yeah. I don't remember who else I would. Yeah, but there was a few that I had to get a little creative with.
Yeah.
Oi, I grabbed one of his animations. I still think there needs to be a better thing of Oi. I actually even looked into a few of the things that people have posted with real animals that they say look like Billy Bumblers in their mind. Like there's like a red panda, I think.
Yeah.
And there's also some weird little small furry thing, but none of them were exactly none of them were exactly right. It's a gold ring eyes. King calls that out way too much. So any other animal, if they don't have like golden eyes, like it's just I can't get over that enough to like take an actual Oi illustration out and put a real animal in, and they don't have gold eyes, and the tail shapes are not always right. So yeah,
the red panda has like the markings around the eyes. It's just not gold.
Yeah,
I think that if you could change those to gold and like Photoshop and then fix the tail, because the tail is all big and poofy like a big old poofy cat's kind of tail. If you could fix that to where it's like
a startled cat,
like the squiggly tail. Yeah, a startled cat. Poof. If you could fix the tail, it'd be like the squig. It's almost like a squiggly, like a pig's tail, right? Is what it's described as? Isn't that what it's described as?
I mean, I think it coils, but not like a pig. I think because I think it's like a cat. The way I always pictured it was like kind of poofy, like a cat or a raccoon, but that it was like more coily rather than just straight. Is kind of how. Whatever, because I think he like wraps it around like Jake's leg at times and stuff, doesn't he?
Oh, right.
So yeah, I don't think it's like a pig where it's like an actual. Like,
so the
coil.
red panda looks okay. It's just the tail is poofy.
The tail's wrong, and then the eyes.
If you just added gold rings around the eyes, then it would really, really. Because I just looked up a picture of a red panda, and I mean, I know red pandas. My daughter is obsessed with red pandas. She loves them.
What's funny is before like 3 or 4 years ago, I'd never heard of one.
Really?
Yeah. I think I literally heard of one through a Dark Tower post on somewhere, whether it was Reddit or somewhere, where someone's like, "Oh, look, a real life Billy Bumbler," and I was like, "What the hell is that thing?" Like, and then I was
is
like,
that real?
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, it is real." My God. So
they have them at the zoo here in Utah, the Hogle Zoo.
Probably didn't last time I went.
You haven't been to the Hogle Zoo in what, like 15 years?
Probably. Whenever they were building the cat enclosure, the new cat thing,
the Asian Highlands. Yeah,
it's probably been 15 years.
That's where they have the red panda. We went last fall. They had a baby one there, and so it was the summer. It was really exciting.
So what you're saying is
one.
Go up there and steal one of those things and have my own Billy Bumbler?
No, Tad, no.
Why not?
God, they're endangered.
I mean,
that's illegal. Like on so many levels, sir.
I mean,
stop it.
Aren't Billy Bumblers endangered too?
They can see you.
You're
on camera.
Aren't Billy Bumblers also endangered?
Not in this world. They're extinct.
Yeah. Like, do animals still talk here? One of the best lines of the movie.
Yeah.
Because all right. So that's all the March Madness updates. Go ahead and check. Like I said, we have a little bit more in depth conversation over on the YouTube channel, and we will continue to have that the poll will end for this round one day. The next day, when technically the next round starts, look for. It'll be later in the evening because we're going to do it. We do it after work.
Yeah.
We'll come over here. We'll record a short YouTube video. We'll post it, and then I'll update all the brackets and post it. So it's technically not the whole day you'll be able to vote the next round.
Yeah.
It's the tail end of it through the rest of the dates. And just keep an eye on that for the YouTube. We'll kind of keep doing that as a regular thing because, unfortunately, with our show being every other week, it doesn't give us a lot of opportunities to talk, especially next episode being a book club. So,
and this is the nice thing about having our YouTube channel where we can post videos and stuff is that if there is something that has to get out right away, we're going to do it there.
Yeah, so seems like a fun little thing. So yeah, we'll see where everything lands with this. You know, I guess we could also talk about what we did in the video. Do you have any predictions
for round 2?
Just whether it's round 2 or whether it's the whole shebangy there. What are your predictions?
I don't know what I said in the YouTube video. I don't want to contradict myself.
It's all right. I mean, you know,
I do remember
opinions change as time goes.
I do remember one thing that I said is that I'm worried about Cuthbert. I thought Cuthbert, if Randall Flagg wasn't taken down to the first round, I was like, oh, for sure he'll go down to the second round to Cuthbert.
But then he struggled.
Because Cuthbert's just going to roll over Sheemy. But then he struggled against Sheemy, and I'm like, shit. Shit, no, I don't want to see Randall Flagg in the Final Four.
Flagg could not be stopped.
No.
What about Final Four and then the finals with Flagg?
Flagg's going to meet the buzzsaw that is Oi the Brave. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, then there was somebody that commented as well in oh god, was it? Oh yeah, it was somebody predicting in our Discord server for the Patreon group. Somebody basically like put rough photoshopping of like kind of how they feel the bracket will go.
Yeah.
And they had it with Flagg and Oi as the finals of that side of the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put in between with special guest referee Mordred. Because of course both Mordred and Flagg, most tragically Flagg, died at Mordred's hands. I mean, of course Oi's heartbreaking, but so much more heartbreaking is Flagg, right, Peter?
No.
So what about overall? Do you have any predictions for the finals?
I honestly think I think it's going to be the best part is that the final could stack up to be so many great matchups. I mean, we could get it's a long shot, but we could get Detta versus Susanna.
Yeah.
We could get Roland versus Flagg.
Yeah.
We could get Oi versus Jake. Yeah. We could get Cuthbert versus Eddie, twinners.
Yeah.
There's so many good matchups that could happen in the final. I'm just excited to see who ends up there in the end.
Yeah. I have a hard time again voting against Oi. When we first started this, there was even a slight part of me that wondered if we should leave Oi out of it, just because in my mind he might be so unbeatable that it wouldn't almost be competitive. And so far that's proven true, that from what we've seen he pretty much trounced. We'll see how he does now with these this round will be very reflective of how things look, because versus Irene Tassenbaum, that's one thing, but going up into this next round, that'll be a little bit more telling as he goes up against like Detta Walker. That's a little bit of a bigger character, and then from there, who knows. So
Carol says parrots are the last remnants of animals that can talk in the world or this world. And then Mike says, don't forget humans. Some still put together coherent sentences.
And then Travis says Flagg will win. I hope so. That's my hope. And then Mike
worried
agrees
that people are voting for Flagg just to spite me. And it's not right.
I hope so.
It's not right.
No, it's because
what's going to happen is we're going to get to the final, and it's going to be Eddie versus Flagg. And it's going to be like 99.9% of the votes for Flagg and 0.1% for Eddie, and that's going to be my vote. And that's it, because everyone's just trying to stick a knife in my ribs.
See, I just think you're taking credit away from good old Randall Flagg, and he deserves a lot more credit.
He doesn't deserve any credit. Bad man. Bad man.
So that's the March Madness update, and where we're sitting now. Keep an eye on the YouTube, and we'll go ahead and update you guys as we go. I'm really excited to see how this goes. This one seems a lot more positive than the last one. I mean, the last one was the most hated.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a little bit different, but this one, I think there's a little bit more zest on people to vote in this one, because they're voting for who they love versus who they hate. So good old Randall Flagg, good old Oi. There's a couple good characters in there that could win. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the news section, though. Go ahead and we'll dive right in here. The first one is a fun one. The Shining takes on bloody life of its own as an opera.
Oh, lovely.
And we actually talked about this.
It was over in Denver
when it was
right?
when it was first announced. Yeah,
because we were joking around about like
going.
Should we go? And then it's like,
it just sucked because it was in like end of February
Yeah.
and March. So
driving to Denver in the end of February is not a good idea.
No. Now I will say, sadly, as I read through this, there's part of me that's like we should go, but then I was like, oh, it's already over. But we really need to keep an eye out if they do a second run of this, because it behooves us.
It behooves us
as Dark Tower and Stephen King fans to
Yeah.
go on over to the next door neighbors of Colorado and go see this, because this actually excites me quite a bit. So by John Moore from the Denver Gazette on February 28th, 2022. Because what I will say before diving into this is there's been a couple Stephen King adaptations that have been happened on the stage. I believe Carrie. There's been some other ones that have been done over the years, whether they've been musicals or plays. They haven't all been that great. I don't know if any of them have really been that great, so I kind of expected this. Who knows? But as I read through this article in prep for this episode, I actually did kind of, I don't know, I felt a little heartbroken that we missed it. So starting off as traditional performance arts organizations, organizations that for too long kept their respective silos have gone hip and to the hip by branching out to the pursuit of crossover fans. Right now, there are three of Denver's performance arts organizations that have come out of the pandemic shutdowns with long delayed projects targeting fans of other art disciplines. And then it goes through a couple different ones. They have Danny Elfman coming in to do like a orchestra thing for like Tim Burton stuff that he's done for Tim Burton. There's some other one I can't remember. And
That's
then
a lot for Danny Elfman to shift through, because he's done a lot with Tim Burton.
I know the I don't know if it's the Utah Symphony or if it's the Salt Lake Symphony, whichever one has done a few times. They've done John Williams ones, and that's, dude, imagine having to pick like 12 songs that you're going to perform from the pantheon of John Williams. Like, that's rough.
That's a tough choice.
Yeah, it's like a 70-something year career of like, and iconic throughout the whole thing. Like, like it would be hard, but it was definitely fun. So then the third one, as it gets to it, says, and now here's opera. So
Clever.
Give him credit for that. It says, okay, they never say that or sing that in the famous "Here's Johnny" line in the opera. Colorado's new stage adaptation of Stephen King's The Shining that opened Saturday. That's because, for better or worse, this curiously compelling new hybrid is a reimagining of King's 1977 source novel, not Stanley Kubrick's 1980 film.
Oh,
so that's it.
Oh, if we had read that before, we totally would have gone.
Yeah,
you've been calling for that,
dude. Yeah, that was the first heartbreaker for me.
Oh, bummer.
Now I will say, I will give them. It's not credit; it's a knock, because they do focus on the book, which is good. But in all of their marketing material, I don't think it mentions it in this, but when I went to do some research about if it was still playing, like one of the big promotional images is the Grady twins. And the Grady twins don't exist. Grady
Except
does
in the
yeah.
Stanley Kubrick?
Kubrick.
Why am I having? I can't say it right now. I can. You've heard me say it before. Why can't I say it right now?
Are you having a stroke?
I don't know.
Do you smell toast?
No, I don't smell toast.
But so because Grady doesn't have kids in King's novel. So the fact is, but I mean, honestly though, is that not one of the most iconic images of The Shining? You know,
it's the twins.
Yeah, it's the twins. I mean, when you think of how many times have you seen like references to The Shining? Like think of like Twister. They're watching The Shining, you know, and one of the things
it's twins.
It's the twins. Like yeah. So
and it's also like the Halloween costume I see a lot of people do. You get two girls who look somewhat close together and they dress up as the twins from The Shining.
Yeah. Or actually they're not twins though. Right?
Aren't they?
No. Everyone just calls them twins, but there's an age difference. Or wait, are they in the book now? I'm starting to doubt.
Dude.
Did they not kill them? Because I know they're not twins. That's
Brady's a family man in the book, isn't he?
Because maybe that's I don't know. I don't think I don't think he kills them in the book. If they are in there, but they're different. They're different ages. They're not twins.
They are twins. The Grady twins, also known by their first names Alexa and Alexi.
Does that say from the?
That is Stephen King fandom. So let me. You keep going. Let me read up on this.
And then it says, so no hallway blood flows, no axes, and no here's Johnny, and a very different ending, which clearly, yes, if they're going by the novel, it's going to be a massively different ending. It says, still, the book has its own advantages that lend themselves to the stage. The story itself is far more emotionally deep. The monstrous alcohol-fueled underbelly of flawed caretaker Jack Torrance comes across as a far more complex in the opera context, stemming as it does from years of childhood abuse, which is interesting. That makes me wonder then, do they actually show some of the flashbacks of Jack's dad in this opera? Kind of makes me suspicious that they might. And yet, while Jack is quote unquote taken over by the actual villain of the story, the hotel itself, it is clear that it's his history of violence towards his wife and son that far predates their visit to the Stanley Hotel. And then it says, yes, you can call it the Overlook, but we Coloradans, no, which is true. It is the Stanley.
Good. All right.
Or Coloradans? I've never heard that actually before, but yeah, there's no I.
Coloradites.
Coloradans.
Coloradans?
That's weird. I always find it weird when I hear how other states refer to themselves, their people, because it never, I mean, and I get it. I'm used to Utah, but I'm sure that sounds stupid to other people.
Probably.
But yeah, I would think like Coloradians or something, but yes, it's not. It's Coloradans.
Straight from StephenKing.com, StephenKing.fandom.com.
Yeah, Carol says they're not twins in the book, but they're his
In the book,
kids.
the Grady twins are not twins, but are 8 and 10, and described by Bill Watson as cute as buttons. They did not make an appearance, but are mentioned and referenced several times, and most certainly haunt the Overlook Hotel, most likely now evil. They are both in the book, the miniseries, and the movie. They are in all three of them.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a matter. Yeah, it's a matter of if they did the twins, or if they made them twins or not.
They made them twins in the movie.
Yeah.
I still can't say his name.
Kubrick.
Did I say it right?
Yes.
Kubrick. In the Kubrick film, they are twins. In the book and the miniseries,
they're not.
Not.
There's an age difference. That's one thing I always remember every time I read it. It's like, wait, oh shit, they're different ages, and that's why I was thinking. But there's some difference. I don't think do they not show up in the book as haunting spirits? There's some element of them that's in the.
No, they are just referenced. In the book.
Yeah, and Kubrick uses them heavily, and definitely shows you their fate.
You see them, and then you see them later, and you see their fate.
Yeah, and that's a lot of that's added by him. So that's what I'm thinking. So yes, they are in the book, because that's why I was like, wait a minute, no, because there's no way that Kubrick's would have actually called out their ages. So it would have had to have been we got through the confusion there. But yes, they're not twins though. 2-year age difference
in the book,
which should make it easier to make them costume characters.
Yeah,
because then you don't have to look that much alike.
Then you don't have to look that much alike. You just have to look kind of like sisters.
Yeah. And then the next thing it says, The Shining is a creepy campfire story for sure, yet it strikes to the emotional core of our most primal fears, that domestic violence and murderous urges pulse not from the surface, or pulse not far from the surface of the American family. There's just something big and horribly gratuitous about the wicked imagination of Stephen King, and how it lends perfectly to an operatic treatment. One directed here by David Ramades Toro and conducted by Ari Pelto. The libretto is gorgeously sung by a cast of 20, with the heavy lifting falling to Edward Parks and Kelly Cadis, and Jack as Jack and Wendy Torrance. But the breakout star is scenic designer Aaron Rom, whose living, breathing set, fueled by shadows and projection video animations, becomes a haunting character unto itself. One that fluidly blends past and present, the living and the dead.
I've never been to an opera. This would have been so cool to go to.
Yeah, like for sure I'm like going to be like keeping a close eye on their website to see if it comes back. I really hope that it does. And then next up it says, Rebecca Parks, a 32-year-old Opera Colorado subscriber who came to Saturday's opening from opera camp, was duly impressed. Quote, I had chills the whole time, she said. The suspense, the music, the lighting, and that set was just alive. Personally, I would never have paired up opera and The Shining, but that was fun. Her friend Sonia Ellison, 30, a fan of both opera and the movie, says the opera makes her want to read the book now. Quote, because I love the opera even more than I love the movie.
Wow.
So, yeah. So again, it maybe if this is the thing that we can get some people to actually read the novel and realize that as great as Kubrick's movie is, King's novel is better.
Yeah. Carol says, not saving the world, but feeling pretty good about myself that I know that's kind of stuff off the top of my head. It always feels good when someone's like, is it this or is it this? And then you're like, no, it's actually this way. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's I think what I got jumbled in my head is like, yes, they're not twins. I knew that. But they're not these haunting spirits like there are like Kubrick uses them in the novel. Like they exist, but not as twins. Next, it says still hardcore film fans who have been driving down Spear Boulevard the past few months, seeing those iconic creepy Grady twins on the huge poster draped down the side of Denver's Performing Arts Complex, are going to be left somewhat perplexed. And then in parentheses says because you don't get much of them, which is true. If you're going off the book, you almost shouldn't see them at all.
Yeah.
Fans like Rebecca Gorman O'Neill, playwright and chair of the English department at Metropolitan State University of Denver, quote, anyone expecting an adaptation of Kubrick's film is going to be disappointed, she said. Everything that Kubrick added to the story in his film is studiously avoided here, which, again, if you're going by the book, then that's how it should be.
That's how it should be.
And then it says this new incarnation of The Shining leans more towards a Broadway musical than a traditional opera. The actors don't just stand and sing. There is acting and blocking and even some bona fide choreography, which I guess I've never understood that would be the difference between opera. That opera people apparently just stand still and there's no
they sing
movement.
and they sing and tell a story, whereas a musical is still like, I mean, we were part of musicals in high school together.
Yeah.
Me acting, you stage crew, lights, sound, and stuff like that you did. Yeah, so there was that. You saw me get my head chopped off once.
Yeah, indeed. I
don't know why you always smiled when that happened. It was kind of creepy.
It says the actors don't just stand and sing. There is acting and blocking and even some bona fide choreography. Almost the entire book is beautifully sung, which makes it sort of like the Phantom of the Opera meets Beetlejuice, which that's a fun.
That's a great image right there. Holy cow.
That is a fun little twist there. But even the most mundane of lines of dialogue are sung, which through Gorman O'Neill. Quote, one of the first lines was, did you remember to put the parking brake on, she said. And apparently, if everything is sung, I'm assuming that's sung as well, which is an interesting line to sing. Did you remember to put the parking brake on being sung? That again, this all sounds wonderful. I want it in my veins now.
I really wish we would have gone, dude.
Yeah. And it says, I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for the weather, I think I probably would have had us go. But yeah, just making that drive, I mean, I guess we could have flown. But yeah, like in general, when it's that close, driving is the first thought. And yeah, driving in the winter, that's real shady, especially going up there through the Rockies.
We've seen horror films about
yeah,
this,
I mean, there's the Donner Party, too. You know, I mean, no, that's the other direction.
That's the other direction, but it's still mountains.
Yeah, it's still
in a state that borders ours. So thank you.
And here's a question. Do beasts hibernate, or would they be active in
It depends on the
winter?
beast. Bears hibernate. Wolves do not.
Werewolves?
Werewolves never hibernate.
So they would be
They
out
would
there
be
and
active. Yeah.
Well,
no, wait, that's not true. Werewolves hibernate. It's just the 28 days of the month that aren't a full moon. So
then it says, which means that even the traditional opera veterans are going to have to adapt. But this crossover effort is clearly is aimed at not at Opera Colorado's tried and true blue, but rather those King fans who have most likely never come to the L.E. Calkins Opera House, or who are coming for the first time. And it says, you know, those people who post frozen Jack Nicholson gifts as a standard response to pretty much any Facebook post about anything? Yes, I'm talking about my brother Kevin, who is a big fan of The Shining. How big? Quote, I would probably buy in for to go into the opera, probably for the first time ever, for The Shining, he told me flat out. So apparently it is drawing people in that wouldn't normally go. I've never been to an opera before.
nope.
I don't even know if they have operas in Utah. So
They do.
I mean, I know they have like, I don't know, like the orchestra or the whatever, that kind of symphony does a lot of stuff. But yeah, operas I'm not familiar with. And it says, and then there's the opera veteran sitting next to me who was a little befuddled when she was asked at intermission what she thought, and yet she may have accidentally hit the croquet mallet squarely on the head. Well, it was a lot like an opera, she said. So and then it says, not opera, but exactly, but like opera. The thing about turning any film or book into a stage musical is that it necessarily then becomes its own thing with its own fans. No matter your taste, there's no question The Shining makes for a wholly original evening that will leave audiences revisiting their preconceptions about the opera. Quote, I think it will help people realize opera isn't just some stuffy thing for old people. It can be inventive and modern and creative, Parks said. And as Ellison noted of Opera Colorado, quote, they're also doing Carmen, which is awesome. Maybe seeing The Shining will make people realize the opera is cool and want to come back. So, yeah, I will certainly be keeping an eye on
let me know.
website there because, yeah, if they do it again, we have to make this a very big priority.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot of fun though. It is. I'm glad you're as heartbroken as I am because I remember hearing about it, but I'm like, February, March, dude. There's no way, man.
You can literally pull up our roundtable where this got announced, and we looked at the dates, and I looked at it up because I'm like, dude, Denver's like a 9-hour drive from Salt Lake.
Yeah,
like it's not that far. Like we could absolutely do this. Like both of us hop in a car, put on an audiobook, put on the Gunslinger. We'll be there by the end of the book, kind of thing, and then. We looked at the dates and we went, ugh.
Yeah, because I mean, like
driving over either I-80 up through Wyoming to drop down into Denver,
that gets
I-70.
closed. Like I-80, they'll shut it down, like whole stretches of it when it gets too nasty with the snow,
or just wind. It doesn't even have to be snowing; it can just be wind that'll blow over the semi-trailers.
Usually, they just shut the big trucks down from that. If it's super windy, they don't shut it down for normal cars. But when it gets too snowy, there's just no way for them to clean it up in time, so they'll shut it down and just say, "Hey, it's shut down for a couple days."
Yeah.
And if that's the couple days you need to go across it to get to Denver from Salt Lake, like that kind of
Tough
screws
luck.
you. And I would certainly never go up I-70, man. That's a shady ass thing when it's clear weather. So I would never go that route in the winter.
It's longer to go through I-80 and drop down, but it is the more like
safer.
It's the big interstate. It's Interstate 80 that goes all the way across the country, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I-70 gets really windy and really tight and really.
It is a shorter drive though.
Yeah, it is, but
not by much.
So hopefully they'll be coming back with it. I don't know how this works. I would imagine that with this cast that maybe they can get them back together and do another run. I would hope. I don't know, but I will definitely keep an eye on their website and keep everyone informed because. We're close. We'd be able to potentially drive, or if we flew, it'd be a very short flight, maybe an hour.
It's only 7 hours and 46 minutes if we take I-80. It is shorter.
For other people, though, I'll keep everyone abreast because maybe there's people that would want to actually fly in and see it. So
that's what Carol was saying in the chat. She said I would have to fly, but with some planning, I'm in. If it shows up somewhere again.
Yeah. So
Mike says if it comes to the Mid-Atlantic, I'll drag my wife to see it. Then stop at a sporting goods store on the way home and look at croquet sets. That's disturbing there, Mike.
He's got the Roque mallet there in the picture. So, it looks like a lot of fun. I hope it does come back because I had kind of lost sight of it a little bit. I forgot, but then once I saw this headline, I'm like, oh shit, did that just happen? I'm like, oh yeah, it was like around this time period.
Damn it!
So. Yeah, and it has been kind of shady the last week or so weather-wise.
It was not great weather.
It would have been pretty. No thanks.
No.
Flying though, maybe, but okay.
If they can get flights up, that's the other.
Yeah. I did see something where it's like just remember when you're in an airplane during the winter, the person that's de-icing your plane makes like $12 an hour.
That's not comforting.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to read that.
Thanks a lot,
but I'll share it for your benefit.
Thanks, Tad. Appreciate it.
So this next one doesn't seem like it would be common sense as to why we're covering it, but there's a little nugget hidden in here. This says California Film Commission picks 30 films for the next round of tax credits, expected to generate $1.17 billion statewide. This is by David Robb from Deadline on February 28th, 2022. It says the California Film Commission has selected 30 feature films to receive the next round of California tax credits. Movies that will commission. That will generate $1.17 billion in overall production spending in the state and create 4,564 jobs for crew members, 1,212 gigs for actors, and more than 48,000 days of work for background performance and stand-ins. The CFC notes that the listed approval projects are subject to change as applicants can withdraw from the tax credit program. So I'm keeping that in there as a
legal disclaimer.
No, just like because there's some excitement that might be here. So it says, pointing out that the incentive programs is truly statewide initiative, the CFC noted that a third of the project's filming days are on chosen films will be taking place outside of Los Angeles' so-called 30-mile zone. This commission says that the highest number of out-of-zone films for any round of projects in history out of California's tax credit program. So basically the rest of the state's benefiting. It's not just that little tiny bubble, which most films are. So a third of them are outside of that. And then when it gets into that realm is where this gets interesting. Filming is planned to occur in 16 different counties across the state, from San Diego to Humboldt to Marin to Kern. Out-of-zone days will be led by The Long Walk. With 40 days of filming outside the zone, and Dope Little Creatures with 33 of its filming days outside the zone. So, yeah, it sounds like The Long Walk is filming this year. We have not heard anything about that for ages now. It's been,
All
I think it's
right.
probably been a year or two since we've heard anything about
Yeah.
the Long Walk. So, but it sounds like, I mean, we haven't seen a press release. We haven't seen any castings yet. Nothing. Like, as far as I'm concerned, that was still kind of a backburnered project. But it looks like they are due to be making $7 million in tax credits because they're going to be filming 40 days in California this year. So,
Outside of the Los Angeles area, which makes me think that's going to be the walking part. You're
Yeah.
going to go out there in Joshua Tree National Park, or is it National Forest National Park? I can't remember. Death Valley, somewhere along there, and you're going to be recording empty highway scenes where it's
Yeah.
going to be a bunch of kids walking.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's fun, very exciting. I always love when like little tiny things like this sneak announcements for us because again, I'm sure the
Yeah.
studio would much rather this come out with whatever press release they have planned and probably some castings and whatever, all the normal rigmarole that we've gone through with a number of projects now. But it's always fun to get a little bit of a tease that something's coming. So I'd guess in the next couple months we'll probably be seeing a lot of media blitz for the Long Walk, which apparently is no longer in that shady little like realm
in that stasis.
yeah, like the backburnered.
Announced but not doing anything. You know,
Yeah.
poke it with a stick. Come on, do something.
Yeah, it's like, come on, yeah, wake up here, let's go on. So yeah, that'll be exciting to see. So let's keep an eye on the Long Walk here in the next call it 6 months or so. The next one is a big one, and we've talked about this off the show. Is Uncle Stevie had a guest appearance on the Kingcast.
Yeah.
So they, the Kingcast guys, had quite the get by getting Uncle Stevie himself.
That's so cool.
and
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, indeed. And it was a great episode. They had about an hour with Uncle Stevie. It was a lot of fun to listen to. They talked about a lot of things like Revival, Gwendy, and Dark Tower came up. But I have some notes here, so that's what I put on the screen here. Some notes I took from the show. The show posted on March 2nd, 2022. I recommend everyone go and listen to it. It's a great listen. Yeah, it's a lot of fun because they at their beginning, they're like, we listened to as many interviews as we could to prep for this. We wanted to make sure that we're not going to ask you the same stupid questions that you've answered 100,000 times.
Yeah.
And then he interrupted him. He's like, so what, are you going to ask me where I get my ideas? And they got all mad. They're like, yo, you just ruined our punchline. So, yeah. But no, overall, they did do a good job of not asking the questions you see him on Letterman and Conan and every fucking program he's ever been on. He gets asked pretty much the same questions all the time.
Carol says it was a great listen.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So here's some of the notes I have. Let's see. First one is a quote here, and it says, "It's only in the last year and a half that I even became aware of what podcasts were or what they could do." So I had to highlight that because over the years when people have asked us about, would you guys try to get Uncle Stevie on, and I've always said he doesn't even know what podcasts are, I bet you.
Yeah.
And this quote
Proves it.
vindicates me that he said outside of the last year to a year and a half.
Vindication.
Yeah. So basically the last year and a half. So basically during the COVID era is when he finally caught wind of what podcasting is. So
Makes sense. Locked up, need to listen to something, no audiobooks. What is this thing called podcast?
Yeah. And he's like the ultimate like boomer grandpa too. Cause he's just like, one day I was like messing around on my iPad and saw this weird like purple logo with a P on it. And it's like, and apparently that was for podcasting and I bought it from Apple. I'm like, no, Stevie, it comes with your thing. They put it on there. You didn't buy it.
Apparently I bought it on accident.
I know. I just love it because I'm like, dude, it's just so. It's like all of our grandpas or parents, depending on what age you are. It just feels exactly like the kind of stuff they would say. And then going on, it says, another thing I got is he said, King said that he believed Dee Wallace should have not only been nominated for an Academy Award, but should have won it for Cujo, playing the mom in Cujo.
Wow.
So that's That's definitely a bold, but I mean it goes into the same old realm. One of these days we're gonna have to watch Cujo. Maybe
it's gonna be on one of our hangouts.
For a Patreon show or something because it's been a while since I've watched it. But yeah, apparently he thinks highly of Dee Wallace. I would say obviously though, with the fact that it's a Stephen King story / a horror thing, it probably wouldn't get Oscar nomination. I mean, I think that when I saw Midsummer, I thought for sure Toni Collette would have won an Oscar for that because I think nobody acted better than she did in that movie at Midsummer, and she didn't even get nominated. So horror gets the shaft usually. That's normal.
So that would be the 1984 Academy Awards, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And I don't know what all got nominated that year.
That's what I'm literally going to go look it up. I'm curious. Did they have Best Actress back then?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a long time award.
Let's take a look real fast. Best Actress Shirley MacLaine, Terms of Endearment.
Okay. What else?
That's just who won.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah. What else
click.
got nominated? Because she didn't even get nominated. And again, I don't even know that I've really heard a lot of people argue that Dee Wallace deserved it. But certainly King saying it is interesting. And it did get a few headlines. There's a few other headlines that he created in this interview, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I've seen a couple things now during my prep this week, or people talking about Dee Wallace and her performance in Cujo. What else you see in there?
I'm pulling up where I just had the winners there, so let me.
All right.
Actress in a leading role. Winner, Shirley MacLaine, Terms of Endearment. Nominees, Jane Alexander, Testament. Meryl Streep, Silkwood. Julie Walters, Educating Rita. Deborah Winger, Terms of Endearment. How can you have two women as the leading actor from one movie?
You could have two co-leads.
I guess that's true.
In fact, I believe I just saw an interview recently with Al Pacino where he said that, because he didn't show up for the Academy Awards for The Godfather, and the person in the interview asked, like, the rumor's always been that you didn't go because you got nominated for supporting, and you should have probably been leading. Is that why you didn't go? He's like, no. And then he's like, ultimately, I just didn't go because, like, that was kind of a thing. A lot of actors, we just didn't go in those days.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was one that was always controversial. Because like, how could you say Michael Corleone's supporting role in the first Godfather movie, or any of the Godfather movies? But he was nominated for a supporting actor, so it should have probably been two leads there. Call it Brando and Pacino should have been. But sometimes they do that, sometimes they don't.
So apparently, Terms of Endearment ran away with it, is what Mike said in the chat.
Yeah.
So.
Next up, it says, or he tells a story of the Cujo filmmakers coming to him, basically hat in hand, nervous, and then finally, once one of them speaks up, says that they feel that they think the boy should live at the end. And King responded, "I think the audiences will lynch you if you went through with a particular experience, exhausting and draining experience, and the kid didn't live." So he obviously believed with.
See, I love Stephen King, that he's not this egotistical author that's like, no, my work is sacred. What I wrote has to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, he's come out and publicly said, correct me if I'm mistaken in saying this, he's publicly come out and said that he wishes he would have thought of the ending from the Mist movie.
Yeah.
He wishes that he had been able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. But here's the best part. The King adds to that. Quote, "But one thing that's always amused me is that you see that St. Bernard lick Danny's face. Tad's face. Sorry." So he mixes up Danny and Tad there. Sorry. And so he probably died miserably of rabies sometimes after the movie.
Oh, God.
So King is still king.
Oh.
Which is true. I mean, you probably don't want to get licked by a dog that has rabies. So,
No.
And we all know the horrific death that awaits.
Rabies scares me.
Yeah, that's a pretty terrifying thing. And then moving on here, they were talking about adaptations and stuff. And here's a great quote. He says, Ernest Hemingway said that the best situation for a writer is when you get a lot of money and they never make the film. Which is true. If somebody buys rights for your thing, maybe you get a big payday for it, but then they never end up making it. So you get kind of both the good sides. You get all the money, but then you don't ever have to worry about the actual adaptation.
Looking at you, Steven Spielberg, with Talisman.
Yeah, no shit. Hey, it's moving on now. It's taken 30 years, but
finally
taken 30 years, but yeah. And I would imagine King got a handsome payday for that, because he would have been at the height of his powers when that purchase was made for the Talisman. So he probably got a healthy payday for that. And then there was one section where he's talking about advice for adapting his material, and he said, quote, "Adapt short, particularly for a movie." He says, "Now streaming's a different thing. It's God's gift to a scribbler like me. You can make them longer in general." And then he says some of his things for advice is he says he goes on to say that basically adapt short. Look for things that have less subplots, and stuff with less subplots stuff works best. He gives examples of 1922, Misery, Shawshank, and The Body as all being ones that have very tight stories with not very many subplots and stuff, and those movies all came out really well.
I instantly, when you were saying that, quoting him, I instantly thought of Gerald's Game. Like,
yeah, very simple book.
There's a very simple book, one plot,
versus like The Stand as the ultimate opposite of that, right? There's so many subplots, so many characters that it's just like, how do you make that in a good way? I mean, so far Mick Garris has done the best, but then it goes on here. The next note I have talks about reading the script for Boogeyman, which is upcoming. He says that is a terrific screenplay where things are added to the story and they're not just meat extenders. They're pretty good. I'm interested to see what happens with it. So just a little bit of a tease there.
Ooh.
So because we know we just covered that recently.
Yeah.
My favorite quote from the whole thing here, quote, people are going to forget who Stephen King is, but they're never going to forget that fucking clown.
Yeah.
Talking about it. He says he's going to be up there with Frankenstein, Dracula, and Freddy Krueger. But then people will say, who the fuck's this Stephen King guy?
Yep.
Which, I mean, I don't agree. I don't think King will ever be forgotten, but certainly Pennywise is always going to be his Raven.
I was literally gonna use Edgar Allan Poe and the Raven as an example. I bet you if you went to someone and said "Nevermore," there was a Raven knocking at my door or something along those lines, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know that." Like, yeah, how do you feel about Edgar Allan Poe? Who?
Possibly, I don't know, man.
I don't know, dude.
Here's the difference.
Pop culture references like that.
Here's the difference, though. King is in the era where there is bands dedicated to him. There are records dedicated to him. Every movie has his name all over it, as well as him in it in some cases. He's so much more ingrained in pop culture that I think he's kind of a Stan Lee-ish character that I don't think he'll ever be forgotten. I don't think it's possible.
There's a chance.
I mean, we're part of it, right? We're doing a fucking Stephen King podcast, for Christ's sake. 100 years from now, somebody could be listening to this, like, well removed from Stephen King's death and, getting, I don't know, like, what fans saw and experienced during the life of him.
If you're listening to this in 100 years and you're listening back, please, for the love of God, go watch it. It's really good. Not the miniseries, the movies.
I'd say the miniseries is still worth watching.
No.
Dude, Tim Curry, man.
That's the only part of it that's good.
And then they get to the nerdy section at the end. When asked about Dandelo, Pennywise, and the Outsider potentially being the same species that feed on different emotions, he says no, he doesn't think they're the same creature. Quote, everybody's got to eat, so everybody has to eat something, and a monster, in order to stay alive, would need to eat something. So that's kind of his explanation. He doesn't see them as related necessarily.
Yeah.
But beyond the fact that he said related in the nature of that they're supernatural creatures that feed on emotions, but he doesn't see them as actual relatives.
It's like saying that a bear, a wolf, and a mountain lion are the same species because they all eat deer. But no, they gotta eat.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay, so
which is funny because
that puts that to bed.
Yeah, because we actually brought up the Outsider in the last year or so, where it's like, wait, we brought him into the idea of Pennywise or Dandelo as well, like very emotional in terms of eating emotion and stuff. So still, it's a fun little fan theory. And then a quote here, which is crazy. Quote, very flattering to hear you talk about the Dark Tower in positive terms. And then one of the co-hosts gave an exasperated what? To which I agree, because it's like apparently King doesn't feel as many people are positive about Dark Tower, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
And then he goes on and says, because those books mean a lot to me. So definitely good to hear. He's asked if he's done with the Dark Tower, or does he think that there's more in him? Quote, well, I don't know how much more time I actually have to write, but I'll take it day by day. But everything, in a way, is about the Dark Tower, and that's all I can say. It was my idea from the very beginning. From the second page of Gwendy's final task, written up the side of the rocket is Tet. So those are the good guys, and there's somebody on this spaceship that goes around the Earth to the space station, and he's working for the Somper Corporation, and they're the bad guys. It was great to get back and discover that the tower is still at risk in those other worlds that exist. Kind of interesting to see. And then and then he goes on and says, I've got a book coming out in the fall called Fairy Tale, and it's also about another world, but I tried to keep it as separate from the world of Gilead and all the associated places the Dark Tower as possible. And even then it crept in a little bit. It always creeps in.
Always.
So definitely good to hear. And then he is then told by one of the co-hosts that he didn't answer the question. And asked, is he done with the Dark Tower series? He's like, get a life. Because earlier on, they did make reference to, like, Shatner is famous for that. When people would ask him nerdy Star Trek questions, he'd say, get a life. And so King's obviously just playing on that.
That's awesome.
And then he says, I don't know. Probably yes, but maybe no. I just don't know, guys. Please, please, please. So he doesn't seem like he genuinely knows. But, yeah, it's kind of ambiguous there. Then he is given some shit by, rightfully so, by the co-hosts about the gap between book 3 and 4. And then he says, quote, "You can thank Marcia D. Filippo and Julia Udley. They just nagged me because they got all the mail, and they were always like, when are you going to finish the Dark Tower? Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up." So apparently we owe those two women a giant thank you for the fact that it was only 6 years. Because without them, God knows what
Oh, good Lord.
the wait might have been.
We'd still be waiting.
We might still be waiting, yeah. I think we actually did the math on it. If it wasn't for the accident, I genuinely think we would have been doing the podcast in the time that the last book came out.
I think we would have.
2 of them. I think the 7th book...
is what we figured out.
We calculated just the average time between the books, and if you didn't have that just rush of those 3 books after the accident, I think we'd just barely be finishing them here in the late 2010s and potentially even into the 2020s.
Yeah.
So, and then he goes, or another note, but it's like Gwendy, who you can, this is actually a quote. I forgot to put quotation marks here. He says, but it's like Gwendy, who you can never really let go. I could never let Holly Gibney go from the Mr. Mercedes books. I mean, she was supposed to be a walk-on character, and she kind of stole the book and stole my heart. And so I just finished a novel that's called Holly, and it's all her, man.
Oh, shit, dude.
So there is an announcement. I don't know if it's the next, but obviously after Fairy Tale.
Yeah.
It might be, but he just finished it, so I don't know what the editorial process is.
How stoked are you?
Dude, I squealed in delight when I heard that.
That's awesome.
I mean, what about you? You love Holly as well.
I
Not as
do.
much as me, but
I do. That's awesome.
yeah.
I wonder if it's still going to be hunting like an outsider, because that's the last 2 times we've seen Holly is the outsider and then If It Bleeds.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's where we're going to go with that, or if we're going to get something else for Holly. I mean, Pete was just about to be finished with Finders Keepers.
Yeah.
So is
Yeah, I don't know. I'm stoked, dude. Because
yeah.
I genuinely wondered if It Bleeds was just kind of that last couple drips out of the tank of Holly into a novella. But
dude, how
sounds
stoked
like not,
are
dude.
you?
Dude, just absolutely.
I'm going to paint you a picture, and I'm going to get your hopes up. But I'm sorry ahead of time. # Peter is terrible. How awesome would it be if Holly met the kid from later, and that's the story?
Oh man,
dude. Best of both worlds, right?
Yeah, that would
like
be
her using him and her forming a partnership to solve some crime or something there with those two.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait.
Dude.
I'm hoping for 800 pages. I think that's a small ask. 800 pages of Holly. I think
I don't want to get your hopes up on that idea, but
then he goes on and says, and so when you say you're are you done with the Dark Tower? No, not until I'm dead, and maybe not even then. So he does add that.
Joe.
Well, no, he says, because he was being wishy-washy earlier, but then he says, if you're done with the Dark Tower, and then he answers it again and says, no, not until I'm dead.
And
so
even and he says,
and maybe not even then.
Maybe not even then. We literally talked about this like one or 2 episodes ago.
What if he wrote a Dark Tower book that he specifically was setting aside and wanted to come out after he died?
That son of a bitch. Just so he doesn't have to hear us bitch about it. Is that what it is? Damn it, Uncle Stevie.
Oh man,
God, I love him.
And is it going to be? Would it be Joe or would it be Owen?
Oh, I was thinking Joe Hill for some reason, but
yeah,
no, that's that. I'm mixing them up. Joe Hill's who looks like him, right?
Yeah,
that's what we talked about last episode.
Yeah.
We saw the picture between the two of them. We're like, that's the same guy. Find the difference between these 2 pictures. It's the same picture.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Owen that's the real big, has released multiple things, right?
Yeah. I mean, they both have. They've both written quite a bit. But Joe is probably more successful at this point, for sure. Mike says, and maybe not even then. If anyone can pull that off, it's King.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Mr. Harrigan's phone. King dies. Then, a year later, a book comes out. Another year later, a book. It's like, they just keep coming out. It's like,
watch. The guy has been writing 7 novels a year for the past 40 years and only publishing 2 or 3.
Yeah, he only publishes.
He just has this vault full of books. It's the Finders Keepers story.
Yeah.
Where he has all the books,
all the
manuscripts and everything like that. And then Owen and Joe are just going to be publishing them under their names.
And if there's one thing that was because he has that titular character that is like the main focus of his books and Finders Keepers. If there's anything that King has of that, it's going to be Dark Tower, right?
So are we the bad guys? Are we the ones that go and steal it from him when he's old and retired and by himself?
I mean, we certainly wouldn't kill him. We just do like the fanboys, go break into Skywalker Ranch to get episode 1.
There we go.
We just do that, just break in and take the manuscripts and read them and then return them. He was asked if he knew the end for the Dark Tower when he started, and he said no. He says he didn't even know the middle of it when he started. So, because they talked about the, just like the circular nature of the whole thing and stuff, and just they kind of wondered if back when he had those get green paper that he stole from the library, if back then he kind of knew that the story would fold back on itself, and he said no. He says I didn't even know the middle. He says he did say that. Oh, let's see. Did I miss that? Oh, no. Then he says he always thought the best one was, quote, the one with the pink ball and the love story. So King said he believes that book 4 is the best of the Dark Tower books, which is not an unpopular opinion.
Nope.
I mean, are some rare people we've heard from that have maintained a hatred for it, like I hated it the first time I went through it. But for the most part, I think everyone accepts that it's probably the best book.
Yeah.
And then it goes on. He goes on and says he goes on and says that by wolves he had an idea that Ka was a will and that Roland would have to go back to the beginning. So he started to have that idea about the time that he started writing wolves, which is after the accidents. So, and then he said, he said he thinks the reason people find endings of things terrible is because they don't want them to end.
Yeah.
And specifically he brought up Game of Thrones, which I disagree. The ending of that, it was terrible, and I don't care if it ended. The first 5 seasons were one thing, and everything after that felt very, very different, and that's not just the end. Like, there was just a marked difference in that show.
There was a shift there, for sure.
Yeah.
I asked my wife about that show the other day, just out of the blue, just like, do you think you'll ever go back and rewatch Game of Thrones? And she's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's such a strange coincidence, phenomenon that it was such a global phenom. Like,
Yeah.
everyone was watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Everyone and their dog.
Yeah.
And then it dropped off the face of the earth.
I will say, if I ever went back and rewatched, I'd watch maybe the first 5 seasons, and then stop. Like, I wouldn't probably go on any further. I have found myself watching certain scenes from those earlier seasons on YouTube and stuff. So
we talking some eyeballs?
No, I like that guy. No, like Tyrion's trial. There's just certain things that are just fun to go and watch highlights of on YouTube. So
I know how much you like that guy. That guy's eyeballs just going.
Yeah, Oberyn Martell. Hey, that's why he doesn't take his helmet off in The Mandalorian.
Damn straight. He learned his lesson.
And then the last note I had is he was asked if he had said previously that letting Jake drop is the crucial moment, and that if Roland does that, he is doomed to repeat it all over again. And King says, yes, I think that's correct, which that's interesting because I don't know if I've ever really heard that interpretation before. So Roland basically is damned from the very beginning. So he has no hope of redemption later on. His only hope is that he changes enough that by the time he gets to that point in one of the cycles, he doesn't let Jake drop. That's his salvation, is what. And again, King says he thinks that's correct. So he's not. I think he's being smart as an author to not say definitively, like he did with Dandelion, I guess. So in some ways, though, I think there's certain things he wants to keep open for interpretation. But that's interesting. I don't think we've ever really talked about that before. That's an interesting take, which I get though, because that is probably one of his most damnable sins for Roland is letting Jake drop. So I could see that, but it's definitely a new one to me. Have you heard that before? Have you ever thought that?
I always thought that Roland was cursed because of
because he kept
the tower.
Because he kept going to the tower. Like, so I've always held that as like cool after Algociento, like it's saved at that point. You even get the sense that the beams are going to heal. So at that point, he has every reason to follow Susanna through that door, go and pursue those people he loves, right? His son and that kind of thing. And the fact that he doesn't do that is why he's next. But yes, so King's basically saying that he's damned even before that. So maybe that's the difference.
We've had this discussion before at one point. I asked where does the loop start? Because we always, the man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger follows.
That's a flash.
It's the first
It's that
line.
It's that moment
and
of
that's
dizziness.
That's the moment of dizziness. Oh, that's him coming back, and
Yeah.
he's being inserted back in. But honestly, we never do get confirmation of that, and that was something that I brought up to you when we were discussing the ending for the first time, when we had our ending discussion. I think,
Yeah,
is
like in the
that
first
show.
year of the show.
The first year of the show,
5 or 6 years ago.
we had an ending episode where all we did
titled
the end. All we did was talk about it. The one thing that I brought up was that if you're looking at it in an oval, on the left side is the desert, the waste, and everything like that, and everything, and the end is him at the Dark Tower on the right side. That bubble is where he's repeating over and over again. But I pointed out Well, then how does he get the horn? The horn is Jericho Hill, which is before that.
Which is why.
So is there? My thing is there being powerful enough to reach outside of the
Like
bubble,
Gan.
get the horn for him, and pull it in?
Yeah.
But if
Like
he's
divine
damned,
intervention.
if he's damned before that,
No, he's damned when he drops Jake. So that's after that.
so that's after that. So
Yeah.
so he's not damned until he drops
The end
Jake.
of book 1. So that moment when Flag's up there in the distance, and basically it's like you drop him or you catch me. You can't do both. Or you hold him or you catch me. You can't do both.
Yeah.
And he chooses Flag in the tower. That is what King is saying he thinks is correct. Is that's the moment, which is interesting because ultimately it's still the same question that we've been talking about for years. Because the question even when I just referenced there 5 minutes ago, was in that moment after Algo Ciento, he's lost those that he loves. A door is drawn for Susanna to go through this door into New York, a different New York than we've seen before. But they see the two brothers, they're wearing, nozzle, whatever. So it's like, you see, it's not whatever, but it's Eddie and Jake. And King says at some point there will probably be a dog that will enter the picture, and it's just like, so Susanna goes through, she gets those she loves. So right there, Roland has the same choice as he does there in Under the Mountain. Those that you love or the tower,
dude.
So it's the same. It's the
dude.
same thing. You're just conveying it back to the
Dude, no. What if that's the next iteration of Jake? That's his choice right there, is to go to Jake, save Jake, and everything like that.
That's what I'm saying. Is I think it's interesting that it echoes. It's kind of the same. It's the same question.
It's not an echo. It literally is the same question again. Cry off and go.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That it's no longer necessarily like, are you going to give? It's not any point can he give up the tower. There are 2 points through the story where he can give up the tower and choose his quartet mates instead. When Jake's hanging off in book 1, and when Susanna goes to leave through the door in book 7.
And offers him to come with.
If he leaves at any point there and he goes off the path of going to the Dark Tower, that's it. The cycle's broken and Roland's redeemed.
Yeah.
Aside from that, he can't cry off in book 5.
No.
Defeat the wolves. Susanna stays. There's no pregnancy. He cries off the tower. No. That can't happen. That's why Susanna's pregnant. That's I think that's what that is. So that makes that Flag can't break the cycle then. Flag can't do anything to affect the cycle.
No, he doesn't fully know that, though.
Yeah, he doesn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot that we know that Flag doesn't know,
Right.
but it is interesting that the shit that Flag does know that Roland doesn't. Like, it seems that Flag's cognizant of the cycle and stuff.
Yeah.
So Flag is a little bit more aware, which again I point to as a reason potentially for Flag's motivations. Because if you were conscious of such a loop like Groundhog's Day, like, that'd be maddening, man. And the fact that it's not even on you to break it, but it's somebody else, like, I'd be trying to kill him too.
Yeah, and the thing that one of the big things that we know that Flag doesn't is obviously that Hood doesn't do shit against Mortons.
No, certainly.
I mean,
Carol says then even after I'm dead comment is an awesome moment in the interview. Definitely, she says drawing of the 3 is the best, which I think is I have a hard time. I love book 4. It probably is my favorite, but book 2 is a very, very, very big sentimental favorite for me.
It's what hooked you.
That's the Dark Tower drug I got addicted to.
Yeah.
The rest of it was just down the path, but that was the one that hooked me. So, and then Crimson King TPH says drawing of the 3 is the best, but my favorite is Wastelands. I didn't like Wizard and Glass when it first came out, but love it now, which is the same.
A lot of people.
Same experience I had. I hated it the first time, but I absolutely adore it now. It's my favorite. The other thing I would say is, like, drawing of the 3 and Wastelands and books 2, 3, and 4 are probably the most common for people saying the best. In the experience I've had with doing this show for 6 years, is I think those 3 books are far and away the leaders in the clubhouse for favorite books. Some people say Gunslinger, they love Gunslinger. You love Wolves of the Kala, but I think those 3 are far and away the kind of the ones that we see the most of. Alan said, I watched the first episode of Game of Thrones and didn't pursue the path further. Same with Walking Dead. I recognize the popularity and fanatics, but missed the boat completely, which happens, definitely. That's, I don't know. Sometimes I'm almost happy when that happens because, like, there's just so many good things to watch that sometimes when you just get that sense that this isn't for me, it's almost a relief because I'm juggling, 15 balls for shows right now anyway. So the last thing I need is to have a couple more thrown into my juggling act. And then Carol says, more canon, if only in my head. Don't let Jake drop, and it changes everything. Which, yeah, I it sounds like what they kind of said. I've never heard that before, but it sounds like, and then the way they kind of worded it, it sounded like they kind of thought that King had said that before, which I've never heard, and he does kind of say, yes, that I think that's correct. So, again, he's leaving some ambiguity, but that's ultimately the moment of Roland's damnation, which is why there's hope with the horn still, though, because the horn shows that the change and evolution towards salvation is carrying over to the next one, which means at some point he's going to have enough of a soul to not let Jake drop in that first instance. So,
Okay.
And then how does that change the whole thing? Now you've got Jake on the beach with him, and now like the whole thing just changes, I think. So, and he could still
Does he end up on the beach? Does he end up on the beach if he saves Jake?
I don't know.
Wouldn't he have to turn back?
Joe Hill, get writing, damn it.
Wouldn't he have to turn back?
I don't know. It's interesting topics for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Carol says, I agree with Peter. He can leave through the door with Susanna, and it could still be okay. And yeah, that's always been kind of, or not always, that's been my interpretation of the last number of years, because it's evolved over the time, even with this show. But my most recent kind of evolution on the ending is that Susanna is the ultimate winner of this series. She's the only one that gets a happy ending. And Roland, so really she's the way to showing Roland, like, here's your way of salvation, dude. Not only is the doorway here, but I'm going to go through it to show you how to do it. And he chooses not to. So if he does let Jake drop still, I do still think he can get redeemed by going through that door with her, because then he doesn't go to the tower and it's not going to cycle him back. Like,
yeah, because
at that point he's going to die in New York City at some point. Whatever that is, down the road.
The problem is we actually covered this in Wastelands, an episode or two back in our book clubs, is that Eddie points out to him, or maybe it's Susanna, one of them points out to him, hey, dude, it doesn't matter if you drop tomorrow. We're going on.
Yeah.
So I think if Roland tried to cry off, I think Eddie and Susanna would probably still try.
Yeah.
And that would damn them, and so that's where Roland has two opportunities.
Do you think damnation's for everyone that goes to the tower, though, or is it only Roland because of all the people that he fucked over in his life?
Crimson King gets pretty damned, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he's...
I mean, we have two examples.
He's the Crimson King.
No, but we have two examples of people that get to the Dark Tower. Go ahead and tell me that we don't have 100% damnation rate.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're just looking at it statistically,
but they're two pretty vile characters that get there in terms of their track records.
I
don't think Eddie Dean. I mean, he's not his Boy Scout, but I don't think Eddie Dean is in that same realm as the Crimson King or Roland. In terms,
I don't think Roland's in the same realm as the Crimson King. There's a more.
He's got a
blood,
trail of bodies.
He's got blood in his ledger and a trail of bodies, but he's not a genocidal maniac.
No, but he killed. In some ways, he may be worse because he killed not only just random people, but he killed people closest to him, or let them die. So
what you're saying is that his mother's death is on him.
I mean,
because you're saying people close to him. Who close to him did he kill?
I mean, it gives you the impression, and he kind of believes that too, that ultimately when he chose the tower over Susan, that's on him.
Okay.
So like there, and I think that's another crucial moment, which again, that's before the cycle, so I don't think that he could ever change that. But that's the other point. If there's ever a point that he chooses, damn my mission, damn the tower, I'm going back and I'm going to be with the woman I love, like then he just goes and becomes a farmer and mages until the world falls around him, but he would live for someone he loves rather than the tower. So he's
again, you've given me possibly one example of him killing people close to him.
Jake.
The others.
Jake.
He chose not to save Jake. I mean, he's not the one that put a bullet between Jake's eyes or pushed him or anything like that. I mean, there's a glaring difference there between.
He let him fall.
There's a glaring difference there.
No, he's got a trail of bodies that ultimately that he doesn't, and the thing is he doesn't really care. Like we get it in his internal monologue in book 2 when it talks, or was it book 2 when Eddie calls him out on it, where it's like, if it comes down to us or your tower, whatever, or even when he promises Jake that he won't let him fall again, but then it's like Roland thinks to himself, is that actually the truth type thing? Like, because he knows full well, like, he's lying. He does, like, he cares for these people, but he'll fucking let him die at a moment's notice. Like, you give me shit all the time for my thing about Oi. Like, Roland's the same way for those around him at any point.
And then in book 7, he proves you wrong.
Yeah.
He goes to jump in front of the car, not send Jake for it. and the only reason he doesn't is because of physical inability to.
Yeah, because of King.
So he has changed.
Yeah, certainly.
So
and I think
he's
that's
not,
I think
he's
that,
not, he's not even in the same ballpark.
I think that's why he gets the horn, is because there is that change.
Yeah,
and
so,
I don't
to compare him to the Crimson King, that's asinine. He's not in the same realm as the Crimson King. The Crimson King poisoned an entire land and killed millions of people, and Roland is the same as him.
In the sense, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, see, this is where you're so muddied with Flag in your brain that he's the hero and Roland's this bad guy that you can't see that the Crimson King is a truly evil character. Roland has faults, but he's not an evil character by nature.
And I would say that you're just rationalizing more for him and going the opposite direction for the Crimson King. Like, Roland's a pretty terrible person, and he gets called out by almost everyone around him.
Because he's cold and calculating, not because he's actually going around shooting everyone he sees. He's not murdering a whole shit ton of people.
Well, he murders a town there.
Self-defense, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
That's also, let's talk about that for a second. Who sets the town to kill Roland? Is that Roland's choice? Did he antagonize them? Did he set fire to their stable or start shooting people on random? No. Flag put them up to it. Flag set that town on him. So if Roland's guilty of leaving Jake to die and letting him drop, Flag's guilty for toll. Because he knows what Roland can do.
Again, that's all aside. All I would say is I don't think either Roland or the Crimson King match up to like Eddie or Susanna if they got to the tower. I believe tower-wise, I don't think it would treat them the same as it treats. Like, the Crimson King ultimately is an existential threat. The Crimson King's there to destroy the tower. Roland comes at it with almost like a prideful, almost like, I don't know, like entitlement.
Like it's his birthright.
Yeah. Like,
because he's a knight of the Eld. I mean, he's a knight of the White. Yes, it is his birthright. That's why the tower opens to him and shuts the Crimson King out, is because the Crimson King doesn't deserve the tower and Roland does.
I don't know if it, but again, it deserves it in the realm of to get up to the top and be judged for his crimes.
Is that what's happening though? King?
I think so.
No, because King's saying that he's damned for dropping Jake.
Yeah.
So if he's damned for dropping Jake, that has nothing to do with the tower. That's some other force at work that's damning him, and is like, okay,
I think it's the tower.
You're about to get to the top of the tower and be shown the secrets of the universe, everything like that. Nope. Fuck you for dropping that.
Yeah, because I think like when the Crimson King goes through, he's not seeing at each level all these different elements of Roland's life.
He didn't. He got to the second level and got locked out.
I was thinking. I think it's higher than the second level. He's a little bit high up on that balcony, but
I thought it literally was the second level because Roland climbs to the second level and looks out the balcony and sees the two eyes looking at him with furious hatred.
Either way, yeah, I think it's different for everyone. Like, I think when Roland's going through up it and seeing like different elements of his life, I mean, even like things like, he fucks Cord up pretty bad in terms of maybe he didn't need to. There's just different things. I think he is being judged by the tower, and I think the tower does kind of have like an element of, I just don't think that like Eddie or Susanna would necessarily be damned for going to it, because I don't think that they wouldn't have gone through the same shit to get to the tower that he does. I mean, maybe shit gets put in front of them, but I don't know that either of those two pick to do any of the things that Roland did that we saw. Like a Susanna moment, or a Susan moment. I'm sorry, a Susan Delgado moment. I don't think either Eddie or Susanna would have allowed that. They would have picked the person that if it was Jake, for instance, on the line. I think they picked that over the tower personally, because they're not the same as Roland.
Jake makes that choice. He saves Stephen King and sacrifices himself.
No, I know. I'm just saying. Let's just say it's just the three though, just the three New York people, and Jake's in a way where it's like, okay, it's either the tower or Jake. I think they pick Jake every time. Well, and I think that's why the tower wouldn't treat them the same that it does Roland, because it's not just what Roland has done. I think that it judges. I think it's judging also just like
his heart.
Yeah, it's his heart. Like, you are a fucking.
Like it's not just his actions that it's judging. It's judging also what it sees in him.
If it came down to Roland massacring towns or entire nations to get to the tower, do we really want to ask the question of if he wouldn't do it? Like, that's the thing. Roland's he admits it himself. We've got it it's all in the Eternal Dialogue, which is my favorite, which is always worries me about like a series. How are you going to get that in the series?
Do it like the Batman did. I'm sorry. People say it doesn't work on film, but the Batman had internal dialogue and monologues and stuff like that, it fucking works. For certain
Shawshank, right? It's one of the greatest elements of all time.
For certain characters, it works. Roland is one of those characters. If you did a film like the Batman where we get internal dialogue with Roland and it's the gunslinger,
I think the only thing I would argue is I don't think Roland's introspective enough to be like diarying, like doing a diary, like Red, you're hearing like him telling the story. Batman, he's writing a diary. I mean, Henry Hill's telling you a story in Goodfellas. I don't see Roland really doing those things as much. I think it'd be hard.
Roland tells one hell of a story in book 4. I hate to break it to you, but that's one hell of a story that he tells there.
Yeah, I don't know. But yes. Let's see. What did I miss? So Crimson King says if Jake doesn't fall, then Roland won't lose any fingers on the beach. I mean, yeah, if Jake survives, like, let's just say book 2 still happens starts as it would, and you're on that beach. It turns out all differently, with Jake there. So
Jake's there on the beach. Roland's not inebriated going through any of the 3 doors.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
he has Jake's help with Mort.
If he doesn't get to flag, is he even like disoriented enough to let the lobstrosity get up on him?
No.
You know, like, isn't it like the almost drunkenness of Flag's freaking magic show?
He's passed out at the high tide line, and the tide coming up is what finally wakes him. It's the tide hitting his shells and his guns is what finally wakes him up.
Yeah. I guess I'm thinking of that last illustration of book 1 where he's sitting on the beach and sitting up and looking at, like, I just think there's kind of almost a hangover from Flag's.
Sure. No, you're right. There is. Yeah.
His whatever you want to call it. Show, certainly. And then let's see. Carol says all killing was in self-defense or defense of others, right? And that's where I'm saying that whether it is or not, I still think that the nature of Roland is what is in question. I think that's where like Eddie or Susanna would be different, or Jake, if it came down to him alone. Whereas Roland, like, oh man, he's he showed that he has no scruples with.
I'm sorry. That's incorrect. He absolutely, book 5 is entirely based around the fact that he has scruples.
That's different. Because that's after the evolution, because we do see a redeeming evolution during the course of the books. I'm talking like the early Roland. If that Roland had continued on, and potentially he has, if this is the 19th cycle, God knows what his other cycles looked like. Because I do believe the evolution we see during the course of the novels we read, those are new. I don't think that if we saw the other 18 cycles before, I don't think he's that redeemed the whole way through. I think there's times that he may push Jake into the car instead of King and stuff like. Because I think
you got such a dark image of Roland with no basis for it.
The first couple books, the way that he is, it's
cold and calculating and mean to Eddie does not make him a homicidal maniac.
King said in that interview too. He's like, one of the things I love to see was this automaton, this hasta la vista, basically he's Terminator that I then try to turn in. That over the course of it we see turned into like a more good person. So yeah, but I just think that like that evolution, I think it's a slow thing. So I just don't think that I don't think every single cycle he's just barely missing the mark, because I think there's like almost like with the video game where as you're getting up and it's like you're leveling up a little bit,
up your strength and I think your charisma and stuff like that.
And I think like 19, like I think we're at the point where probably within the next couple cycles he probably gets his redemption. I really do. I think we're close. I think one more cycle may even be the one.
I'm sorry, but if he's damned, he's damned. I'm starting to wonder if he's ever able to be redeemed. If he made the choice and he's damned, we literally could be reading his hell is the Dark Tower. That's
certainly.
That's it.
And that's some people's interpretation of it, is that it is just an absolute purgatory that will never end. But yeah, I'm a little bit more hopeful of it than that. But I do see
that's honestly shocking because you usually don't take the hopeful
side.
The
whole 19 thing, that's what gets me, is it's like if it's taken 19 to get to this point, like I don't think that we're gonna, like 18, 17, 16, those are going to be some pretty ugly realities, I think, because I think you're going to be more like Roland from book 1 and maybe early parts of book 2 the whole time, and potentially some pretty horrific shit, like, and because again I think it would be a slow iterative process, and King was geniusly, I think, put us into like the 19th realm where it's like we do actually see a decent arc. We're at the kind of the hump of that arc to actually see some change, and so yeah, that's more the hopeful. Yeah, some people are just like, no, he's damned, like this will never end, like he's gonna be in a constant loop for the rest of eternity.
I'm wondering if that's you honestly might be seeing a shift in my thinking of the ending, because if he's damned for dropping Jake, there is no redemption for that. If that's the sole act that gets him damned, I don't know how you redeem yourself from dropping a child to death. I mean, I don't know how you redeem yourself.
I think what the redemption is that as he grows his soul back through the things and then cycles back, he gets to that point and then doesn't drop him. I think
but you literally just gave like 8 examples after that point that he's responsible for that proves that he's unredeemable. And that's in the 19th cycle, so there is no redemption for this man then. If you're saying that it's his core being and that's what it's looking at, there is no redemption then. There is no changing who you are. You can change aspects of yourself.
That gets into like the dramatic / philosophical debate of, can people change? Whatever. I'm watching Better Call Saul, which gets into that as well. But no, I think that they can though, because like when you get to Roland, like I think we see him transform over the course of the series. He's a whole different person by the end when he's sitting there in his mind committing to, I will not let Jake die. And the part of me questions like what. And we don't know because all we have is this one cycle, but it makes me wonder, what do the other cycles look like? What is it? Because I really think that part of it might be the whole splitting of the minds, and that maybe that hadn't happened in previous iterations. And that's the thing, because really that changes Roland. That humbles him, that puts him in a way to just like, he's weeping at a certain point. So then when he fixes it by getting Jake and saving him, he does doubt himself. We get that internal thing where he promises Jake, but there is a doubt where he's almost questioning himself. But I do think that is truly, that whole thing that we've just read, the whole first half of book 3, is really the stuff that breaks him to the core, and that is what then we see him being a totally different person. He acts differently to the quartet. He's joking. He's laughing. He's more fatherly to them. He's not as standoffish and stuff like
the stuff.
And I think all
the stuff in book 5 where he has a conversation with Jake and Eddie.
Yeah,
like equals, not as I'm the commander, I am the chief.
Yes,
bow down to me, you
which
bitches.
I expected him to do, and he didn't, and it shocked me. But I think all of that in my mind, again, without knowing what the other cycles entailed, it makes me wonder if that whole splitting of the mind and entering that third door, and then saving Jake, and then I honestly wonder if that's something that maybe Flag even did to fuck Roland, but then in the long term it kind of blew up in his face like it does with every fucking Bond villain and stuff, where then it actually broke Roland, quote unquote, broke Roland's like Terminator brain in a way to where it started to move him to being more human, if that makes any sense. Because I've always felt there's something very, just from what we do see, there's a different Roland, like from before and after like book 3 basically, and I wonder if it's that splitting of the mind and just almost madness, and then to make him realize that how much he loves Jake and how important Jake was to him, and the almost sorrow and regret for letting Jake drop. So then when he gets Jake back, I think that's where like the father-son relationship comes. I don't think they have that big of a relationship in book 1. It's more of just like, oh, you find a kid at a store that's lost. Like you have you have a feeling as an adult to like watch over the kid
to
until
assist,
whatever. I think that's Roland's place in book 1 with Jake. I don't think there's actually a relationship where he gives a shit about him. I think that's why he lets him drop when it comes down to, oh, my mission versus this kid. Like, oh, I feel sorry, kid. Whereas like if that same
it'll save millions if I complete my mission, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it could be the whole like
the mission over one innocent.
The ends justify the means type of stuff, or the means justify the end. Whatever. The mean or the ends justify the means. Yes. That's right. But yeah, that's I guess so. In my mind, I've always kind of pointed at that, and that's where I think like whether Eddie and Susanna are always. Cause that's the other question we've had. Is it always the same 3 people in every cycle, or does it potentially change? I think
is it a different boy?
I do think that they would be the same in terms. I always think that like the Eddie quote unquote would be a Cuthbert twinner in the personality type, but it could be a female in one cycle. It could be. Who knows? I just think it could change.
It could be Carrie.
Yeah, that would make it too easy on him. Yeah. But I do think that breaking of him is really what sees during the course of what we actually see that leads to it. So it makes me wonder if like the Flag is almost setting the stage on these different cycles to try to whatever. And then he kind of undoes it. He almost ruins it himself because he's like, cool, I'm going to break Roland and break his mind, but then somehow him and his team together undo that, and that actually almost triggers, like it's like the Grinch moment, right? The little thing, and then suddenly the little black shriveled heart actually starts to like
it's
like, and then he actually has a heart, and then so now Roland's on the path that eventually in the next couple cycles, in my mind, he's probably going to get redeemed.
There's a really good example that I have, and unfortunately you haven't seen the show, that pops into my head is that Flag is doing something that he thinks is the right thing to do as the villain. And he's like, I'm going to do this. This is going to make my plan succeed and everything like that. But in doing so, plants the seed for his undoing.
And that's like classic storytelling, right? I mean,
no, it is a classic one. There's one in
Yoda does it, right?
Yeah.
By telling Anakin, like, give up that what you fear to lose. And it's like, okay, cool. You think that what you're doing there is solving it, but you're literally making it worse. You're throwing gas on the fire that's going to torch you and your entire fucking order to the ground. It happens more to villains, yes, but it does also happen to heroes at times where it's like when you try to play with like destiny, you end up fucking yourself every time. It's the perfect.
You try to play your cards right and think that people are going to fall in line with what you think is going to happen, but always what happens is there's that one thing, that spark, that seed, that something that actually ends up being your doom. There's times in human history that this has happened.
Yeah.
Where, World War II is a huge thing that both of us love and everything like that. No, this is going to be the thing. We're going to do this, and this is going to be our choice, and we're going to do it this way. And then by doing it that way, you spark someone. The United States.
Doesn't Roland say that?
Like
something about a plan is only good up until it runs into
its first problem or something like that,
or like battle or conflict. Like, cool, you can have the greatest plan in the world, but
I think that's actually a general in real life that said that the world's greatest strategy.
I thought Roland said that in book 5.
He might because he's talking about the wolves. You're
the
right,
wolves and stuff. Yeah,
but that's based off of a real life general said that once. Is that your battle plan is great until the battle starts.
Until the bullets fly.
It's something along those lines. It's like, you can have all the plans in the world, but as soon as shit hits the fan, all bets are off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's one in Buffy where a character's like, I'm going to do this, and it's going to save the person who we're trying to save, and it ends up making it so much worse, but it also planted the seed for that person to be saved. It's it's such a classic storytelling thing.
Yeah.
And I can see that is what Flag is trying to do.
I mean, Vader, right?
Yeah.
Vader says, I am your father. He reveals that to him, thinking that is then going to push him over the edge to fall into the dark side. Him. But what happens in Return of the Jedi?
It actually is what causes him to turn back to the light.
Turn to the good and overthrow the dark side. Yeah. So, it's a classic storytelling thing. And there's just part of me, and maybe that's why, because it is classic, that I do think that there's maybe things that Flag can kind of control about the cycle to try to, like, basically set his plan, like the Roadrunner, or the Coyote, and then Roland's the Roadrunner. But then I think that he fucked himself in this cycle because that whole Jack Mort pushing Jake and Roland coming in time just to see that happen, that just breaks Roland away, and it does, and it almost gets it. If Roland had killed himself, Flag wins. But I think because of the team that Roland has, they were able to pull Jake through. And the odds of them actually succeeding in that, dude, with a demon, the freaking house monster, I mean, everything involved, like, that should not have worked.
I'm going to write a fan fiction for the Dark Tower where Roland's madness actually does get to him, and he actually does kill himself. And Flag's like, victory. And Roland wakes up in the desert just to see the madness in Flag.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
Dude, could you imagine Flag's horror at that moment? The whole breaking the cycle thing is what you're saying with Flag is true.
Yeah, if you kill
him, let's say that is true.
But then it's like Mario.
And it just resets, and he's like, I'm seeing Matthew McConaughey. I mean, for one, we got Matthew McConaughey right there behind you on the shelf and everything, and I'm just like, as Flag. Oh, is that Stevie? Is that Uncle Stevie?
Uncle Stevie.
Oh, I was thinking that was Matthew McConaughey for some reason.
No, he's up there.
He's
up on that side.
He's up behind me. That's where he is.
He's up there. By
I knew he was here somewhere. That fucker's always lurking.
Indeed.
But I'm just picturing Matthew McConaughey like, I did it. The cycle's broken. And then he wakes up in the desert, and he's just like, just so Vaderous. No.
Yeah. And then Carol says, I might listen to the Kingcast, but this discussion is why the Dark Tower Palaver gets my money every month, and we definitely appreciate that. And I'm glad everyone's doing it. This is actually probably one of the more heated conversations we've had in a while. And I have to say, I don't know what the timestamp has been, but this might be one of our longest tangents. Literally,
shit.
that was like one line from.
I didn't even think about that.
Which is great. That's what the show's all about. But it might actually be the record for the longest tangent that we've had
Could
so
be.
far going into. And I know that was just a mini one there, but I do think at some point we should actually have a full episode on the end again. Like maybe after going through both of us reading the series again and whatever, just because we haven't done it fully since like
6.5 years ago.
6 years ago. And it is obviously one of the biggest things. And I think there's a lot of like. It is fun because there's different interpretations of it. King left it open enough that like there are different like whatever. I don't know.
I'm going to throw this out there right now for you, Ted. I want us to design a Tangents logo. Like take this
like the timeline in like Marvel where like all the little branch off timelines, like tangent lines that come off the the core idea there.
Or just take our logo and just put Tangents below it.
Yeah. There is some t-shirt designs we talked about over the years. We need to figure out what other designs we want to do.
I'm just happy that the best one of all time ended up on a shirt. That's
Slander.
still my favorite.
And then Alan agreed with Carol. Mike says, agreed, Carol. This is what my friends and I would sound like if they were constant readers, which I hope that's the role we fill with people, because that's literally us. Like, luckily I was able to, bamboozle Peter into the Stephen King universe because, I do know how rare it is to find constant reader.
I love
so.
that you use the word bamboozle. Like, me listening to you was such a hard thing to do.
Well, I mean, okay, bamboozle, and not just in the King universe, but into the Dark Tower universe, because that was the actual bamboozle.
It's like
the whole,
I found that out years later.
Yeah,
the whole reason I had you read Salem's Lot and get into Stephen King is just so you could read the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
That's what you guys got to do. Is if you don't have friends that read the Dark Tower, you just got to slowly introduce them to Stephen King, and once it gets hooked, then you get them into the Dark Tower.
Yeah, indeed.
And then you'll have a podcast. Wait, no, that's bad. No, don't do that.
Oh, no, more the merrier. Mike says Roland admits he's slow. More than one cycle for him to be redeemed. Yeah, exactly. And that's the way I look at it, is like we're on the, allegedly, we all assume we're on the 19th cycle. And it's like, yeah, because Roland is slow. It would take him 25 cycles to actually
or more.
Yeah. Whereas like a Jake or an Eddie, I think because they're a little bit more compassionate, they have more of a heart. Let's be honest, let's be fair to Roland. He's not that way in book 4. He becomes what we see of him in book 1 through a lot of horrible shit that does happen to him. Some of it maybe at his own hand or by his own hand. Other shit just happens to him, like his mom or Susan.
Yeah, see, I was wondering if you were going to try to blame his mom on him. That is absolutely not his fault.
No, but again, it's one of those things though. If he had just picked, like, rather than like looking into the ball and getting kind of suckered into the whole Dark Tower thing, pulled into it, then none of that would have happened. Like, I think that
does the Dark Tower actually need to be saved, or is it a lie that pulls him away from saving Susan?
Yeah, like a glamour is the pink glamour. I think is ultimately like it's a residual of that caused his mom's stuff. So it's like if he hadn't looked into that, it's kind of like the ring in Lord of the Rings, right? Don't touch it, and you're fine.
Yeah,
but it's when you touch it and then you're going to get ruined by it.
It's interesting to look at with the pink glamour in book 4. We're going to have to discuss this heavily when we get to book 4 in our book clubs.
Yeah,
I'm going to throw this out there. I have questions about what Roland was shown versus what Rhea of the Coos was shown.
Yeah,
because Rhea's shown what's happening now, the evils of everyone around her and stuff like that, and Roland's shown the Dark Tower falling and the end of the universe and all of these other multiple, the multiverse. That's the common phrase now, multiverse.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
That's an interesting. Well, wait a minute. Well, hold up. Why?
Yeah.
Why is he shown this, but she's shown that? That kind of thing.
Is it a nature thing, like Rhea's nature versus Roland's nature? Is it his bloodline?
Is it because that's what he actually wants?
Yeah,
is a purpose, a quest.
Because it does show her what she wants.
That's what she wants.
Yeah, she wants the dirt.
She wants to see the woman licking the corners.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to see Rhea on the screen, just because I know how much it'll drive you insane. Not just to like her, but also we couldn't have Rhea without Cordelia, so I'd love to see both on screen. See if we can outdo Mrs. Carmody for you.
I legit will probably break a TV when that happens.
You just like torpedo yourself into a TV.
I will legit throw a full fucking can of soda through it. I will just God.
Oh, and then Alan says tangents. And then Carol says, I just re-listened to the ending today. Would love a full round table on it again. Yeah, I do think
let's call it. We're absolutely going to do another one after a full read-through by both of us around the same time. Let's absolutely plan for that. If not this year, then next year for sure. We need to do that.
I think we could do it this year.
You think we could do it this year?
Yeah.
All 7 books, all 8 books.
And do we need to read them all? That would be the other question, or is
I
it more
mean-
of just a focus on the? Because I guess yeah.
I mean,
How long would it actually take us to go through?
twist
right?
my arm to go through the Dark
Yes,
Tower again. I mean-
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I'm here for a reason, you know. I kind of like the series a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah, indeed. We'll find something. We'll let keep tuned to maybe episode 119 to be a good episode to announce a date for the end conversation.
There we
You
go.
know that is a very numerical, significant episode.
That's not next episode.
That's the 9th of April.
It's the 9th of April.
So that'll be not at next episode, but the episode after. So
Okay.
4 weeks from now, basically.
Okay.
So yeah, So stay tuned. We'll hash out a schedule for that, and then we'll let you guys know when we're going to have that. But I do think I'm going to confidently say it'll be this year.
You think you're going to push for it to be this
Yeah,
year?
I think it'll be this year. Maybe late in the year.
Should
but
it be our year-end bash?
No, year-end bash should always be open for. Because the other thing too is I wanna do the year-end bash this year. I'm hoping I'll have the trivia stuff.
Oh, that's right, the
Yeah.
trivia.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some trivia challenges for folks. So yeah, it might even have some prizes too. Okay, so
am I able to play?
no, absolutely not.
Damn it!
It's just like when you work for a place, you can't win their grand prizes, or if your mom works for the place, they can't do.
I don't get paid for this.
No, you're half of the Dark Tower Palaver team, so you absolutely cannot win.
So what am I going to be here for? Just commentary?
Yeah, you're going to help with
Am I
the
going
thing.
to ask
I mean,
questions?
the ultimate question.
Do I get to ask questions?
The ultimate question I'm going to ask you is who's the hero of the story?
Eddie Dean.
Wrong. I'm going to get a buzzer too.
Oh, you're going to get a buzz noise
Or-
on your
or a
Steam
ding,
Deck?
a ding for the right answer. All right, so
I like the spirit of this. I like this.
all of the tangents aside, now let's get back into the news, which is fine.
There's news?
It isn't as heavy of a news day as it's generally been, so tangents are absolutely welcome. So next up, part of downtown Orano will be closed to parking for Stephen King documentary filming.
Documentary.
So this is another kind of reveal that there's a documentary upcoming. This is by Sawyer Loftus from Bangor Daily News on March 5th, 2022. It says there will be a parking ban, which I love the word parking ban. Not just like, hey, they're roping off, you can't park in this area, but a parking ban. That just sounds
It's
like
banned.
Yeah, it just sounds like way more terrible than it should.
Actually, that'd be a pretty good name for a punk rock band. Parking band.
Parking ban. So in a portion of downtown Orano next week to accommodate the filming for a new Stephen King documentary. The town issued a warning which will be impeding parking about the impending parking ban due to filming early this week on social media and the website. The warning has left many wondering what exactly is being filmed in town, which I feel like if you're in Maine, you just assume it's Stephen King related, right?
Yeah,
if
right.
there's some kind of filming.
What else is filmed there?
I mean, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's certainly no.
Then again,
there's
how
no,
many
there's no CSI Bangor, so.
Oh, dude, there we go. Tiny little town has like one episode a year
Yeah,
about someone who
one episode of like every 50 years, like
Yeah.
one of those small ass towns.
and it's always a drunk driver rear-ended someone's car and then drove away, so you have to figure out who it is. The episodes are 10 minutes long.
It's like Knives Out. Crew's working on the documentary King on Screen will film in town on Monday, according to Rob St. Louis of the Orano Fire Department. The documentary is a 90-minute production that will feature directors who have adapted King books into movies, according to the film's crowdfunding campaign. So far, the cast list include Frank Darabont, who directed The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, and The Mist.
All hell Frank Darabont.
Indeed. Other feature directors include Zach Hilditch, the director of Netflix's film adaptation of King's novella 1922.
Okay.
Taylor Hackford, director of Dolores Claiborne, and Mick Garris, who has written and directed and produced a number of King adaptations, which is true. Too many to announce. I would not want to list those either. Can't remember how many he's done. I think it's like at least 6 to 10.
It's
Like,
a lot.
It's a lot. The point of the documentary is to seek out stories and other points of view as a quote-unquote exciting tribute to King and his deep knowledge of the human psyche, according to the film's crowdfunding campaign. The portion of the film being shot in Maine will be the part of the film's introduction, according to the campaign. So sounds
Okay.
like that is probably something to keep an eye on
There we
in
go.
the future, is King on Screen.
I didn't hear one name that I'm sorely disappointed. No Mike Flanagan, huh?
I mean, who knows what else? I didn't actually. There is a link for the crowdfunding thing. I kind of looked at it, but I didn't look heavily enough to get all the names. There was a lot of names. It looked like more than they listed there. So, next up, we've got a happy little guy here to put up on screen.
Jesus.
And then Carol in the chat says Stephen King invented the concept of the multiverse. That's awesome. I mean, he certainly was in it early on. I don't remember exactly when Marvel started doing it because like the main Marvel stuff really restarted in the 60s, but I don't know. It's a matter of did they do any multiverse stuff in the 60s or did it take until the 70s or 80s to start getting the multiverse stuff? Because if so, then yeah, King has him beat because he started it. I mean, who knows? Maybe some of his unpublished or young stuff had multiverse stuff as well. Who knows? Yeah. So this one is Pennywise, the story of it. Documentary boarded by Sindim. How you'd say that. By Tom Grader from Deadline on March 10th, 2022. So we've actually covered this documentary previously. So exclusive, Sindim, I don't know if that's how you say it, has picked up the North American rights to Pennywise, the story of it. So we actually covered this before. It was at a film festival in Europe. So this company is now picking up the North American distribution, meaning that we are probably going to have access to this documentary here before too long.
Nice.
The feature documentary that takes an in-depth look into the creation of the iconic Stephen King character. The film premiered at Stiges International Fantastic Film Festival. That's a long name in Spain. In the fall.
One more time. What was it?
Stigs International Fantastic Film Festival.
All right.
Yeah, let's get that on a T-shirt.
It wouldn't fit.
It has to be like tiny little text. And it had its UK premiere at Fright Fest in October. The deal was completed following the recent virtual European film market. Co-director John Campapano, and he has done Unearthed and Untold, The Path to Pet Cemetery, which that sounds really fun. I might have to seek that out. And Christopher Griffins, which did the one called Leviathan, the story of Hellraiser, which that sounds fun as well.
Tad's just over here making notes for all of these.
Yeah. The doc includes interviews with many of the key players behind Pennywise, as well as an exploration of what went into creating the It films, including casting, production, and practical effects. Simdim will release on TVOD platforms, including Apple, Prime Video, Google, and Vudu, as well as the horror streaming channel Screambox this summer. So be on the lookout here in the next couple months to see this Pennywise documentary. From the red balloons to the yellow rain jacket, the groundbreaking miniseries pushed boundaries and still has a lasting impact on the genre today, says Yolanda Macias, Chief Content Officer of Sindim. Even 3 decades after its release, It and the child-eating clown Pennywise scare audiences of all ages. We're excited to take horror fans on this terrifying journey back to the not-so-sleepy town of Derry.
Just stay away from Derry.
This, a couple times mentioned film. The last time we talked about this, I was under the impression that this is 100% about the Tim Curry It. I don't think it has anything to do with the Machete version. I think this is 100% kind of like almost like a thing for like people our age that grew up watching the Tim Curry version. This is like a full deep dive into the Tim Curry miniseries and stuff, as far as I understand. So I don't think this is actually going to get into the films. I think this is just the miniseries, if I understood the last time we covered this correctly. So.
Oh, okay.
Let's go ahead, and I actually had one that I was going to cover, but with our tangents, I'm just going to skip it for now.
Okay,
it's all good. It was just it's not like a news thing. It's more of like a list thing. So something we'd always bounce back to later. So let's go ahead and get over to odds and ends, because we do have some Palaver topics as well. I don't want to get too deep into a list as well. So first thing on odds and ends, James Gunn tweeted something where he was telling people to ask his top 3, and someone asked for him to list his top 3 King books. And he answered The Dead Zone, Salem's Lot, and The Stand.
Hey, Guns is King fan.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, and also I love all 3 of those. Like Salem's Lot's always been kind of a dark horse favorite of mine. The Stand is obviously my all-time favorite. And dude, I fucking love The Dead Zone. Like as much as you like Firestarter, dude, I couldn't stop with The Dead Zone. Like that is the last one that I was like legitimately like. There was one time I think I sat in my car for 45 minutes after I got home after work to just keep listening. Like,
It's so funny that that's the case because we can come inside and listen to it. Still.
I know, but it's just
so much. It's just sit in the car and just listen.
Yeah, you just get caught into it. So.
I had that today. I was telling you about it when I came in. We were talking about Hearts and Atlantis. There's a part that I'm at right now that I'm like, fuck, I want to listen to this.
Yeah, indeed.
But I was able to push pause.
You've seen The Dead Zone though, yeah? Or you read? I did
read The Dead Zone. Yeah.
Okay, you haven't watched the movie though.
No.
With Christopher Walken.
No. Maybe that's one that we should watch.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fun. Kind of cool to always see King fans everywhere. The next one is an interesting one. King tweeted a rare picture of himself and what I would assume is his library. I'm assuming there may be some people that might try to blow this image up and see what all the books are on the shelf behind him. But he has a shirt on that says, "I stand with Ukraine." And then, crazily, the official Twitter handle for the Ukraine retweeted saying, "We will prevail over those Langoliers for you, sir." So, yes, that is indeed the blue check mark. That is the official Twitter handle of the nation, Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I just love that they're not only giving him props to King, but they're talking about Langoliers, which is that's a deep cut, man.
That's not something that if someone's
like Pennywise is on one end of the scale, the Langoliers are on the other.
Yeah, if some dude in Ukraine is in charge of the Twitter account is like, oh, Stephen King tweeted about us, we should pull something from him. Stephen King characters. It's not going to pull up the Langoliers
They'd
first.
have to be on page 5 of Google before they get to Langoliers. So.
We know there's no such thing as past page 1 of Google.
Yeah, indeed. So that was definitely kind of cool. And yeah, like I said, I'm wondering if anyone's zooming in to find out what books are on the shelf behind him there.
Go ahead and tell me what you found when you zoomed in.
Oh, I didn't yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
I might, though, at some point. But
yeah.
Definitely cool. I did see some baseballs there behind him. That's a fun because I know he's a baseball fan. So
probably some Red Sox stuff up there.
Yeah, most
definitely
likely.
not Yankees.
No, definitely not. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I wonder what references King's made to the Yankees. Like, I mean, we know Flag's never won a Yankees thing.
They talk about the Yankees all the time. There's a mention of it in Hearts and Atlantis. They're
Yeah.
listening to a Yankees game because they're in Connecticut.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
listening to a Yankees game.
I'm just surprised he doesn't have the Crimson King has a Yankees button or something. Just associates them with every
No, if
villainous-
he was gonna do someone villainous, it would be Flag would have a Yankees thing on his or wearing a dude. If Flag wore a Yankees baseball cap, you would have no argument that he's a villain.
I mean, at that point, I would then admit he was a full-on villain. Absolutely. No offense to any New York Yankees fans that might be listening, but I'm a baseball fan, and the Evil Empire is not one that I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
So yes, let's go ahead and jump over to
Emails. It's the emails. Tad's gonna read us what people wrote to us.
No, that's not getting deleted, right?
God damn it. If 6 years ago I would have known.
Yes, that you created the email jingle.
It really was pretty early on, too.
It was, yes, very, very much. Okay, so we've got an email from Kiefer, which I just watched Stand By Me, so Kiefer Sutherland.
I was going to say Kiefer Sutherland.
I watched that, and then I watched A Few Good Men shortly after, and I was just like, dude, that's two of Kiefer Sutherland's creepiest roles. Stand By Me and...
I mean, Lost Boys, who plays a blood-sucking vampire.
Vampires are lovable creatures.
No.
What, Straker? You're not...
So what you're saying is Twilight, those are lovable characters?
Those aren't vampires. It says, I guess I can move us over to the Palaver one, too. He says, "Hi, all gentlemen.
Hi.
This says, I've been listening to your podcast off and on for the last 4 or 5 years, but I've only decided to send an email after hearing your discussion on other King characters that could substitute members of Roland's quartet, which we had that one a little while ago. That's awesome. And this one you're going to have to speak more to, because you've read Doom McKee, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so he says, one of my favorite King novels is Doom McKee. I have not read it yet. I know Chris from Australia has talked highly of it a lot, and then I know you've read it. And he says, and I immediately thought that Edgar Fremantle would make a great fit for Odetta's role. And it says he's even missing a body part. It says during his recovery, and then it says in parentheses, and what ends his marriage, he struggles with controlling his anger, and I think that parallels Odetta's character fairly well. Wireman should also be part of the TED, if only because he's awesome. Maybe C, maybe no. And again, I all that's over my head. But yes, what do you think? You can speak to it more.
Yeah.
Yeah?
He's not wrong. That's
Awesome.
good. That's good. I like it.
Awesome. And then he says, since I'm writing this, I'd like to answer some of the other questions for newcomers on your site, which definitely, that's always awesome. That's always fun.
Yes.
He says, I've read King since I was in junior high. The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon was the first thing I read, but I was too young to really get into it, which that's an interesting first King book.
Mm-hmm.
That's a first I've heard, and it's not a bad thing. I love when people have the non-standard ones, because I think so many of us try the same books to start. If I had a nickel for every time I've heard The Shining,
Yeah.
I'd have a shitload of nickels, including one from myself. So, Pet Sematary is the first book of his that I think I retained, which that's a fun one to start on early on too. Since then, King has become my favorite author, and I'm currently on my second journey to the Tower. End of book 2. Can't wait to see Oi, which we just did on our last book club. Was our first appearances of Oi.
Yeah.
He says, my dad was always a big Stephen King fan, and it definitely fueled that fire. I grew up knowing about the Dark Tower series before I read any of King's works. So that's, I think probably, he didn't add the questions at the beginning, which is fine, which still gives us, with context, we can figure out what it is, which questions he's answering. He says, when I read through the series the first time, I read the original Gunslinger, and I recall feeling the dragginess that many talk about regarding the first book. This time around, I've read the rewritten version, and I have to say I'm really enjoying it. I found it feels much more consistent with how the series continues through the books that follow.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to hear. Although I would say I think that book 1 is always easier after you finish the series, though.
Oh, yeah.
I think the first time you read it, because I read the revised edition my first time.
When we did our book club, I was telling you the differences. You're like, really?
Yeah. So, and it was still kind of slow for me. So I do think it may be better. I haven't fully read the unrevised version. You have, and since like Kiefer has as well. But that's definitely interesting. It says out of the series, let's see. Out of the series, I recall The Wastelands being my favorite on the first read-through, but I'm interested to see how this may change this time around. I also remember that I physically cried, tears, man, he says in parentheses, when Oi died, even though I knew it had to be coming. Oi's death is nearly an unforgivable sin that King committed, and I'm not sure I'll ever forgive him completely.
Ooh,
which,
yeah.
Did any of us fault him for that sentiment? Like, like honestly, I slow down when I'm reading and I get to book 7, not just because of Oi. Like, there's obviously a lot of heartbreak in that book, but like, Oi's a big part of it, man. I'm reading at a certain pace, and then like I get to book 7, and it just goes to like half, and then as I get into it further, I get slower. It's just like I get incrementally slower the further I get into the book.
The closer you get to the end, the slower you're going.
Yeah, it's just hard, man. It's definitely probably is that King's greatest sin. I mean, we haven't read everything, but that's a tough one, man.
Yeah.
Like, you don't kill kids and you don't kill dogs.
And he did both.
He did both within like 100 pages. I mean, not that he hasn't killed kids his whole career, too. I mean, he just talked about Pet Sematary. So.
Cage.
He says, outside of the Dark Tower series, something that has struck me is King's writing pre- and post-accident. Obviously, this has a massive impact on the series and probably is what prompted me to take notice of the differences in his other works. I can't quite put my finger on how to explain it, but books like Duma Key, 11/22/63, and surprisingly, From a Buick 8 have really cemented themselves into my heart in a different way than some of his earlier books. And that's cool to hear that from a positive, because I know my mom, she has been a Stephen King fan my whole life. She doesn't like almost anything that she's read after the accident. She actually stopped reading him for the most part. And I've told her, like, I want to get her into like 11/22/63 and some of the others, but she just felt there was like a bleakness to him immediately after the accident. A lot of his books, and she's not a Dark Tower fan, so those 3 came out immediately after, and she would have skipped those. But she just felt there was kind of more of a bleakness to him than not that he wasn't bleak before, but my mom has always said there's a difference to him after the accident. She didn't really care for it.
There's a difference between like downright horror and bleakness.
Yeah.
Like telling a story that's not necessarily a horror story, but having it end where you're just like, God,
yeah,
that fucking sucks.
Yeah. So I've told my mom I want to get her to read 11/22/63, because I think that's the ultimate example of like, this is like primo King. Like, this is whatever. And then Kiefer goes on and says, I love the classics as much as the next guy, but I firmly believe that 11/22/63 is the greatest thing that King has written.
Yeah.
And like, I can't, like, that sounds shocking, but like, it's like in your gut, you want to like knee jerk reaction, be shocked and like, no way. But then then you stop and think about it, you're like, I can't fault that, man. It's
a damn fine novel.
I think all of us have put, like, when we did our top 5, I think it was in both of our top 5s, and it was in there for a lot of people. So, it's really up there for me, certainly. It's a great book. Potentially, and in Kiefer's opinion, his best, which that's a good pick. He says, I'd also like to add that I believe the Richard Bachman writings are extremely underrated. Roadwork is my personal all-time favorite thing that King has written. Then he says in parentheses, 11/22/63 is the greatest, but Roadwork is my favorite, which I get the distinction, certainly. I always tell people that kind of stuff with movies, where it's just like, yes, I get that there are certain movies that are like just world renowned for being great films, and they really are, but doesn't mean that I don't like this movie that's a lesser film better. And like that's normal. He says the whole collection of the Bachman books is incredible, and I remember reading through them in 2 days the first time around. So that's awesome. Good to hear. I've only read a couple of them, so I need to dive into them more deeply at some point.
I need to get a list of what Bachman books are.
Yeah.
Because I've read a bunch, and I don't realize it. Like, I didn't... the Long Walks one, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so, like, when you told me that about 6 months ago, I was like, wait, what? It is?
And Misery almost was.
Almost.
That one was, like, really close, and I could see it. When you read that, it does feel different than a lot of other King stuff. There's nothing really supernatural about it. It is a little bit more brutal. Kind of fits some of the Bachman stuff. And then he says, anyway, this is an extremely scattered email, and I'm sorry for that. Never be sorry about that.
Never.
I love to talk about King, and I've gotten very carried away before when it comes to Bachman in 11/22/63. And then in parentheses he says, or the Tower for that matter, which we just had probably a 40-minute tangent on the end of the series. So
you don't have to apologize here.
We get it. He says, lastly, I'll add that you guys are great to listen to, and as a fellow Utahn, and he says, I'm in Ogden.
Hey!
I love to hear a couple dudes willing to say naughty words like fuck and talk about a writer like King. It's very refreshing. Long days and pleasant nights, signed Kiefer. So,
fuck yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, very close neighbor there, up a little bit north of us.
Yeah.
And yes, there was never even a discussion for us about language. Like,
no.
I mean, there's like every once in a while because like I have to like mark shit explicit because like we do swear, but it's like it's not like I don't know. I see like YouTube videos and stuff where people like will bleep themselves and just different things. I'm just like I don't, man. I don't know. Everyone has different views on it, but I'm of the George Carlin belief that words only have power if you give them power. Yeah. So I don't see the...
Oh, do I cause problems by swearing? Should I not swear anymore, Ted?
No, I do too. But just when I'm listing the episodes and stuff, like especially Apple requires you to mark explicit or not. And I know that like, we'll then tag it explicit, and then like I think that does like affect some algorithms and stuff because they don't want to push explicit content to everyone or whatever. I don't care. But
we've never been about.
We've never really even discussed potentially there any possibility of not. So
if you tell me to keep a clean mouth, I can do it. I mean, I have a religious mother. I do it around her. For the most part, Peter slips once in a while, and it's hilarious to see the look on her face.
Yeah. Okay, so next up, moving over to the Palaver section. So the first one we have is we have a longtime listener that his Twitter handle is redacted. Like literally that's what it is redacted. It's not like blacked out.
Redacted.
But he tweeted with a question at us, and he says, can any King character lift Mjolnir?
Eddie.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Oi could.
Oi. Yeah, I don't think so. And that's not a worthiness thing. That's just a physics thing. He's tiny.
It has nothing to do with strength, sir.
I don't know.
If it was to do with strength, then...
No, I know. No, that's what I'm saying. The worthiness isn't why he couldn't lift it. It would just then be the actual physical thing that also is there on top of the...
No. See, he would... have you ever seen those videos of people...
He's in the chat.
Hey, redacted. Yeah, that's you. It would be one of those ones where it's... do you ever seen the bear using the log?
Yeah.
Like around... That'd be Oi with meow.
No, I think his isn't worthiness. His would just be the actual physical nature of the fact that that hammer probably weighs 50 pounds and he weighs 20.
No, it doesn't have any physical weight.
A 5-ounce bird can 1 pound coconut. So, Dark Tower wise,
I think honestly,
outside of Flag, probably not.
Flag. Fuck off.
Oh, that took you a second. That took a second for you there. That took like a second and a half to actually register.
That's because I was saying something. I think Aunt Talitha could lift the hammer.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, and he did say Dark Tower. No, he didn't say Dark Tower. He said Stephen King, so we could expand.
Oh, not outside. Just Dark Tower?
No, but I wanted to start it in Dark Tower, though.
Susan Delgado could lift the hammer. Absolutely.
Yeah, I could see that.
She'd be a badass with
Alan.
it, too. Alan and Cuthbert.
Cuthbert.
You don't think Cuthbert?
Just that antagonistic nature he has with Roland, I think, is kind of...
But he was right. Roland had his head up his ass.
But he admitted freely that even though he knew he was right, he knew he was doing it for the wrong reasons.
He was jealous as well.
Yeah, it was a jealousy thing. So I think that would undercut him, but I think Alan would be...
All right, I got one for you. I'm gonna ask you this. I'm not gonna answer it. I want to see your opinion. I want you to look in the camera and you tell us yes or no. Could Stephen Deshane lift
That
hammer?
was the question I was actually just had in my mind. He was the next one that came to mind after Cuthbert was him. I don't think we know enough about him. I think that's the hard part. Like,
With
does
what
he
we know-
does he have like Roland's nature? Like,
Yeah.
or because
He learned it at his father's knee, he says.
yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean,
what about Court?
Court, absolutely not.
No, okay.
He sleeps with prostitutes. I mean, come on, dude.
What?
Do you think the
Does that make them unworthy?
the hammer?
I th-
Absolutely.
I think Thor probably slept around a little bit.
Thor slept around, but he never paid for it.
Yeah, maybe. I think Steven's an interesting question because I think
Steven's
the
an
problem is we
interesting
just don't have a lot of. I guess we don't have enough to know. Like, is he kind of the cold-hearted bastard that you probably
Sure.
need to be a king?
Could gunslingers be worthy? I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. They're suppressing democracy.
As I'll say, here's
You
the next
know?
one. What about Farson?
Farson, no.
The immediate thing
No.
is no, but it's like the whole democracy and
Just because
representation
just because
and-
you have a righteous cause, his actions are not righteous. His actions, again, this is back to the discussion.
I do
that
think
I've brought up
I do
multiple
think
times.
we're gonna learn a lot more about him in the comics. I
True.
do think he gets a lot more coverage in the comics. I know the people that are very heavily against the idea of Flag and Farson being the same person are comic readers. So we're gonna have to see over the course of this year as we start to cover the comics how our things change. But overall, we don't see a ton of him in. It's so it comes down to, do all of his followers, is he directly commanding them, or are they kind of doing that shit on their own accord in terms of like. It's the same as Steven too.
Yeah.
Does he then get any judgment based on what people do under him?
True.
Yeah. Dark Tower is a tough one just because of the world. So I think we'd have to move into the actual Stephen King verse to get better, because I think that world is just hard to have worthy people, because if you're worthy, you're dead in a lot of ways.
No, T and Jaffords could lift it. Dude stood up for what was right, protecting children and everything like that. Absolutely, T and Jaffords could lift it.
Okay, well, if an elevator could lift it, Andy the robot probably could too, right?
Fuck off. Andy the robot would pull his arms out of his sockets trying. There are 4 given in the chat. Mike says, child Danny Torrance.
Yeah,
I can
think
see that one.
I think he'd lose it as an adult.
He would
though.
absolutely lose it after the events of The Shining.
And I guess
Stone.
one thing I would say, let's just throw it out in case not everyone's privy. In the Marvel universe,
right. I guess we should talk about
yeah,
that.
Mjolnir is Thor's hammer, but in Marvel always put a spin on it where Odin basically puts a spell on it to where only those that are worthy can lift the hammer.
Worthy as just, righteous,
and
everything like
anyone
that.
that's not absolutely cannot. Like, they're completely incapable even budging it. Like, the Hulk can literally pick up trains and throw them, a football player would throw a ball, but he can't even budge Mjolnir. So that's a context for anyone that may not have the background.
He breaks the ground trying to pick up the hammer, just in the movie alone. He tries to pick it up, and his feet push into the ground. That's how strong he is. Push through the ground trying to lift it up.
It doesn't. So
Thor uses it comically a couple times where he just puts it on someone's chest and they can't get up.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't even turn to the side and slip it off. It stays put.
Yeah. So that's the context as you're reading through these. Let's see.
So the other ones
Danny
are
Torrance, Abra Stone.
Abra Stone. I don't think could.
You don't think so?
She's got vengeance in her heart towards the True Knot and Rose the
But
Hat.
Thor does too, and that doesn't make him unworthy.
Thor, show me a time when Thor has true vengeance, like anger like that.
Beginning of Endgame.
Beginning of Endgame, where he doesn't have the hammer.
Yeah, but
No, he doesn't have.
It doesn't
He
stop
doesn't-
him from getting it later.
But later is not the same Thor. He's gone through stuff at that point, had time to rehabilitate and everything. I think if you put Thor at the beginning of Endgame, where he calls the axe, and I like this one. Absolutely, I don't think Thor's worthy at that moment.
I don't know.
I don't think he is.
I think Abra might be.
I don't know about she is. Beverly would, but she has that. Oh man, that moment of anger with her husband, but it's justified. So
Yeah, because again,
Abra's is justified too, though.
Yeah, as I'll say, I think you're putting way too much on some of these human elements that Thor does have as well, and has never marked unworthy. So I think those are good picks. And imagine Beverly with that against Pennywise.
Oh, Pennywise is fucked.
That would be fun.
John Coffey absolutely would. as well as Tom Cullen.
Tom Cullen. What about the rest of the Stand? Yeah, that'd be an interesting one to look through some of those other characters like Stu or Nick as well.
Stu could.
I think Nick could. Nick's pretty.
Uh
Nick's super like straight laced, man. He's.
I don't know. He slept with Julie.
I mean,
momentary
weakness. I mean,
again, but that's what it's looking at, though, right?
No, Thor would lose that hammer constantly if momentary lapses in judgment and sleeping with,
No, he did make the right choice, and hey, we could run off away from the dummy, and he's like, no,
yeah,
I'm not leaving Tom.
Yeah, I think that's the ones that immediately. I mean, Mother Abigail. Again, that might come to the oi question though. Like,
I thought you said that she was evil.
Well, I'm just saying, like, she might have the worthiness, but I don't know if she'd actually be able to lift it or not.
Of course she would.
I mean, she struggles with the bag of chickens?
She has to drag them, yeah.
Yeah, I think the hammer's much heavier than the bag
I don't think that there's a question of weight when it comes to when you're worthy. It's like nothing.
No, I don't. I think there's still a weight.
Nah.
I do. I mean, otherwise, imagine how silly it would look if that was legitimately like the weight of foam. Like, when you see him swinging that thing, there's some heft to it. So, yeah, that's definitely a fun conversation. I'm trying to think. Let's see.
Cujo could lift it.
He's a monster.
He's not a monster.
Oh, he's a monster. Even before the rabies, he's a monster.
No, he's not. How dare you slander my St. Bernards? How dare you?
Carrie, probably not, huh?
No, Carrie. Carrie, before the pig's blood, probably. After the pig's blood, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's
Charlie
true.
could. Depends on which iteration.
Jake?
Charlie. Jake?
We didn't talk about Jake when we were talking Dark Tower. I'm just going through the book list real quick, and Gunslinger jumped out at me. I think Jake could.
Yeah,
I do. Yeah, I think Jake is.
It's always about Jake. I picture Jake when he goes to make a decision. It's what's the right thing to do. What about Father Callahan?
No,
because he's
his failures.
Tainted?
Yeah, and he admits them. Right, he doesn't even claim. Different seasons. Andy Dufresne.
No,
why not? I think he's like everyone else in there's actual murderers and. Thieves and whatnot, but he's an innocent man in there.
It's still illegal to break out of prison.
No, it's what is it? Is it Germany where it's like legal?
It's I think it's Holland. It's illegal. It's not illegal to try to break out of prison because man's nature is to be free.
Yeah, apt pupil. There's no good people there.
And Nazis.
The body.
Kids. Again, 50 pounds, too heavy.
Yeah, too heavy. I think worthiness, though, it'd only be the main kid because the other two have issue. Well, yeah, maybe the dumb one too. Dumber, and then he's a little bit chubbier.
I haven't read the body, so
okay. Let's see, Christine. What about Dennis?
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's kind of the Captain America Boy Scout type.
And hey, spoiler: Captain America lifts it.
Pet Cemetery.
No,
not Daddy Creed.
No.
Why? Because of digging up the body?
Well, that and also protecting a son who's a murderer. I mean,
the Talisman. What about
Sawyer?
Yeah. I think so too. Wolf. Oh man,
I need to read those.
We already talked about it. Let's see, trying to see if anything else jumps out.
I think Bill Dearborn could lift it.
What's that?
Bill.
Oh,
Stuttering Bill?
Not Dearborn.
Is it a Dearborn?
No, that's Will Dearborn is Dark Tower.
God damn it. I did that last time too. Bill
yeah, Stuttering Bill. I'm
Stuttering Bill. What's his last name? Guys, what's his last name? What's Stuttering Bill's last name? Him
Gage with Mjolnir.
Jesus Christ. I mean, hell, honestly, if you want to take any of the 7 kids, they all could.
Gage doesn't need it. He's better with the scalpel.
Oh God, and the Achilles
tendon.
The
Achilles tendon, yeah.
What?
Oh, what about Jake from 11/22/63?
Nah. He does some pretty selfish stuff there, and that causes you not to be worthy.
What about the Hodges realm? I think that's the last big thing that we could talk about. Bill has his issues, but
Bill with his stuff, no. Some of the stuff he does to comatized Brady is that's pretty messed up. Even if he is a murderer.
I just blanked on the kid's name. his helper that's mowing his lawn and stuff goes to
shit.
Harvard. Oh man, I'm blanking. I don't know why, but I think he'd probably be good to have it there.
Yeah.
And then Holly, of course. I mean, she could do it all day.
I don't know about that one.
I do. Instead of using the happy slapper, she used Mjolnir to slam freaking Hartsfield.
Oh God.
It's just like Mortal Kombat with like
Fatality.
Shao Kahn and just splatters his head like a Gallagher concert. So that's a fun conversation. But then the big one that we announced for this episode was the Dark Tower characters that deserved better. And this is Peter's prompting. So go ahead and lay it out here. And
So
we only had a couple responses, but I've got one. We got two from listeners.
Yeah.
And then yours.
So I brought this up to Tad because I was listening to a book, and this character did make my list. Maybe because they were the inspiration for it, but basically it comes down to there are a lot of characters that King just absolutely shits on.
Does dirty.
He does them so dirty.
Yeah.
But let me just preface this. I'll give you my two honorable mentions.
Okay.
To kind of preface the idea behind it is that one is Ted Bronigan.
Okay, yeah.
Dude
Ted.
is a genuinely good guy.
Yeah.
And
Is that the one that inspired it? Or no, is that on your actual list?
No, on my actual list is I'll tell you when we get to him.
poor Ted.
Ted does not get an easy life and everything like that. And then Jake Chambers is obviously a
Oh, he's honorable mention?
honorable mention.
Jesus Christ.
I got 5 that deserve better than
Oh, man.
Jake.
We've gone at length in our book clubs about how much King shits
Yeah.
on him, man.
Jake is
I
on-
am
Jake-
shocked that he is not on your list.
Jake is honorable mention. He got bumped. For,
Alan says Shimi.
Shimi's one. Shimi's a perfect example
good
of one
example.
that, man, he deserves so much better than ending up in Algo Ciento.
Yeah.
That's not.
I
I mean, it's not necessarily a terrible place for the Breakers, but still, there's that guilt that he's going to have to live with. Well, no, not him. He ends up dying when he's running through and cuts his foot and everything. So, yeah, absolutely, Shimi.
Yeah, dies from cut on the foot. He's mentioned
gets
that.
infected
Carol says,
because of
"Dang,
that."
I have to remember to vote on different questions. I always it always gets away from me." And yeah, this is one that we just threw out there, and it was more of just an email. So you guys can answer in the chat too. You maybe don't have as much time to think about it as you may have if you emailed,
Yeah.
but if you want to just throw out some names, that's fine too.
Absolutely.
Some of my honorable mentions, I'll mention those before we dive into the list. Nick
Yeah.
Andros,
Oh, shit.
Nick, yeah,
Nick go boom.
yeah.
Yeah.
He went off like a 4th of July display there. Next one, Jake Epping. That the ending for him that's fucking rough, man. In fact, I think I would risk the universe if I were him. I would have gone back one more
Yeah.
time. Fuck you. I don't care. That's your job. If it ends the universe, then so be it. But it's not a guaranteed end of the universe. So I
Sure.
think it's a roll of the dice. And if I'm in his position, I'm a weaker man than him because I would have gone through the door again. So, or whatever it is, the portal. And then the last one I've got is Terry Maitland.
Oh, yeah, Terry. Terry
Terry got fucked.
Terry is actually in the book that the character that spawned this idea with me.
He got
I
shafted, dude.
absolutely I apologize. I absolutely should have Terry on my list. He is absolutely
Yeah.
Andolini? No, absolutely not. Andolini deserved everything that he got.
No, because he gets killed multiple times too.
That piece of shit deserved every single one of those fucking murderer.
Oh, good old Jack.
Jack Andolini absolutely deserved to get eaten. Yeah.
Or shot.
So I'm just gonna go through my 5.
You want to do that, or
You
you want to do 5 across the board?
want to just do 5 across the board?
Yeah.
You want to start with theirs,
Sure.
or do you want to start with mine?
We can do theirs first. So John from Buffalo responded. Let me go ahead and pull up his note as well. His number 5 is, or actually he didn't put them in order, so I just put them in order that he typed them. His first one he mentioned was Sadie Dunhill. And he says did so much for Jake and didn't deserve what happened to her, which is true. I thought of Jake just from that kind of almost Romeo and Juliet like love aspect of then you have to give up your love because the dangers or whatever. But yeah, thinking about it on the flip side, Sadie
Sure.
gets fucked pretty bad too.
She does. See, that's where you get blinded by picking one from a story.
Yeah.
That's what happened with Terry Maitland. Is I picked someone
Oh.
from The Outsider, so
Yeah,
that's where I didn't even think about
Terry. Man, yeah,
God damn, he does get the short end of the stick there.
Yeah, imagine like, yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
And then Mike from Southeast Pennsylvania, he puts up Stan Uris.
Oh, yeah.
From It, and he says, "What a terrible name!" First of all,
I mean,
that's his first
yeah.
note. And then he says, number 2, he says, "If all things serve the beam, how could his suicide help defeat it?" And then he's next up. He says, "It doesn't make sense to me that King had Stan kill himself. I understand that Stan's motivation, but if all things serve the beam, shouldn't he have to fight the good fight and die beating it?" So yeah, that's Mike's answer for number 5 is Stan.
Okay,
that's a good one. And then, do you want to go or me?
I'll let you go.
Okay,
I'll go last. It's my list. I'll go last.
So for me, mine falls right in line with Mike's in terms of the story because I put Beverly Marsh.
Okay.
As my number 5. Because like, cool, we get that moment where she stands up to her dad, runs away, but we've talked about it on this episode, on this show before. What happens after that? She's still a kid. She's got to go back home at some point. Mm-hmm. So it's like we don't have to see that as the audience, but that's going to have to happen when you start to think of the reality of it. Like, cool, she got away from her dad then, but okay.
Yeah.
What does she do? Stay away for a day or two?
And
tops?
which leads also into her developing the toxic love for her husband.
Yeah, exactly. And
Tom.
then and then that's the evolution of it. Then as an adult, she gets into some pretty bad circumstances. And just in general, I think that she gets done dirty. I feel like all the kids have challenges, but I think hers is probably far and away the worst. So yeah, I that's my number 5 is Bev.
My number 5, and this is the one that inspired the list for me, is Alec Pelly from The Outsider. Dude leaves the job of being a police officer to go work for defense attorneys because he's seen enough corruption / injustice to leave a comfortable, well-paying job to go work for a defense attorney to try and help innocent people like Terry Maitland. Yeah. Ends up just getting fucking gunned down by a cop. Yeah. Like, that's just when I just listened to The Outsider last year, and when I had this, or was it this year? And that's because I did my whole Holly Gibney. I did everything with the Mr. Mercedes, The Outsider,
that's a noble undertaking.
And If It Bleeds. You should do it sometime. It's awesome. And just listening to it, Alec Pelly is such a stand-up guy. Hey, if you got the wrong guy, you got the wrong guy. You made an honest mistake. He never rubs it in Ralph's face. Yeah. He never calls him an asshole like Howie does. Howie's like, oh, you all fucked up, you idiots. Yeah. Alec's just like, hey, I've been on both sides. He knows what it's like just to get fucking shot. And then on top of that, fucking Jack shoots him like 8 more times when he's on the ground. Makes it so that he's unrecognizable. His body gets burned and everything. Like, completely shit on this character who I really like, Alec Pelly. Yeah. Like, trying to do the right thing is something that, like, we're all taught to do the right thing as kids and stuff like that. So that's where the whole motivation for this list pops up. I will say I looked at it and none of the kids made my list because 1, majority of them survived. 2, if they didn't survive, they still had successful, happy lives before that, Stan's suicide, Eddie's death, and everything like that. So that, and then Bev gets a happy ending versus like Alec Pelly, who gets fucking gunned down and then his body desecrated and unrecognizable. Then that's the reason why the It kids didn't make my list.
I guess I was negligent here, just as an aside. Mike did send one list first, and then there's a second list. I read his number 5 off his second list. His first list was far more noble. Walter Paddock, Dark Tower. Raymond Fiegler, Hearts in Atlantis. Richard Ferris from Gwendy's. Randall Flagg from The Stand. And the Man in Black from The Dark Tower.
Stop it. Just stop it. No.
So... yeah, then he actually did give us a real list, but I definitely can't bury the lead there. And, number 5, good men with RF initials there.
Yeah.
Or
no.
Some attachment, too.
Get out of
here. All right, so then, speaking of which, moving over to John from Buffalo at number 4, Randall Flagg.
No, get out of here with this shit.
And his note's short. He says, I just wanted a better death.
Okay.
So in that way, yeah.
No, you know what? I withdraw my upset nature. I can understand, especially someone who's a fan of The Stand, me, and everything like that. To see him go out, that's the way he goes out.
Okay.
I you know what? I get that. I get why he's on this list, and he deserves that spot.
If I could transpose one character from a film thing into the books thing, I guarantee I have the trump card of everything.
Yeah.
Dick Halloran in Kubrick's The Shining.
Oh, God.
fucking
flies
dirty.
all the way from Florida,
Gets the
coming
fucking-
to rescue, gets the snowcat, gets up the mountain, and then gets an X in the back.
In the chest.
Oh, in the
In
chest.
the chest, dude.
In the chest.
That is the ultimate, dude. Like when I was like really thinking about this list, and like he immediately came to mind, but I'm like, oh, but he doesn't really get fucked like that. But dude, if Kubrick's counted though, oh my god, dude.
All I picture in my head with that is very first early
And he's doing
days.
it for the right reasons,
doing
right?
it
He's
for the
going to
right
go
reasons.
save the kid and all. Yeah.
Yep.
So and
all
he
I
just-
picture is like the early days of Xbox Live, like online gaming. You get the game on Christmas. You wait the 3 hours for it to download. 'Cause internet speeds were not that fast back then. You get your online, your Xbox Live account all set up. You load up your first game, and you instantly get fucking shot with a rocket launcher. And it's the last kill of the game too. It's just like that's the end. It's just like,
yeah.
well, that sucked.
Yeah.
That's Dick Halloran right there.
Yeah, indeed. So that's an aside, of course,
Okay.
it doesn't fit this. But then Mike from Pennsylvania says Jake Chambers at number 4. He says this kid had it rough. He says he gets pushed into traffic and dies in one of the most agonizing and cruel ways. He gets the joy of reliving that memory in great detail while he and Roland are having their dual history paradox. He's only a kid, and he decides to die again to save Roland. Again, his death is slow and painful. His whole life is either lived with absent parents or asshole Roland. And then in parentheses, the first time he meets Roland in the desert and drops Jake just to catch Randall Flagg. When he finally gets a family, Susanna, Eddie, Oi, and Roland, after the Who's in Whoville sing their song, he loses them and has to sacrifice himself. He even tells Oi to help Roland, knowing it won't end well for Oi because, well, Roland. Which I've never really considered that before. That Jake basically knows that he's sending Oi to his death.
Yeah.
Like that's in his final moments of life as well. Then he says all of Roland's world seems to want to kill him, eat him, rape him, enslave him, or any combination of the above. So yeah, that about sums it up for old Jake. And we've covered most of that in our book club so far. We haven't got everything yet. We're working our way to Lud, so we'll be getting there shortly.
Yep.
But it's only going to get worse for poor Jake here.
Carol says Shimi all through the books, and dies off screen from a rusty nail. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And then, so then me, at number 4, I have Susan Delgado.
Didn't we have 2 people email lists?
Yeah, Mike had Jake, and John had Randall Flagg.
Oh, that's random. Understandable,
So
but
yeah, so mine is Susan Delgado.
okay.
I don't think that she deserved anything that she got, man. Like, father killed by corrupt people. She gets married off to, or she's going to be married off to,
Not even married.
just a horrible.
Not even married. They're not even going to get married. It's not polygamy. It's just that he's their side. She's the side piece.
Yeah, and
Damn.
to just this disgusting old man. Like,
Yeah.
it just, and then of course we know how it all goes. She basically makes herself part of the quartet through her
Love of Roland.
badassery as well, right? She's
Yeah.
a badass as well. And then for it to end the way that it does because of
She saves their lives.
because of Rhea and Cordelia.
Those bitches.
You know, especially Cordelia, because that's like a family member. That's her essential parent at that point in the story, and that's the one that betrays her too. So that's the just in a nutshell my argument for Susanna
Okay.
or Susan.
Okay.
But yes.
Valid. Yeah.
What do you got?
Charlie McGee. She
Okay.
did absolutely nothing wrong.
All right.
Never did she call it upon herself. She didn't decide to do this. She didn't take a drug. She didn't,
Yeah.
everything. Literally, her parents, sins of my father kind of thing.
Yeah.
Her parents took a drug. Her parents got married. Her parents fell in love. Her parents had her.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be the perfect chemical mix to make Charlie McGee
Yeah.
Firestarter.
Yeah.
And then from that day on, the first time she exhibits powers and she gets a little bit older, they fucking kill her mother, torture her,
Yeah.
kidnap her, and then her and her dad have to live life on the run until they kidnap her again,
Yeah.
drug her father,
Then the Rainbird stuff.
then the whole Rainbird psychological shit,
Yeah.
finds out all that.
Then torching the horses that she likes.
Rainbird kills her father
Yeah.
in front of her.
Yeah.
She then has to become a murderer. Self-defense could be argued here. She has to kill people in order to escape and has to go public with
Yeah.
her story to protect herself, dude, what kind of life is she going to have?
Yeah.
Like, that's just horrible.
Yeah.
And she's what, 11, 9, 10, somewhere around. You just read it.
Yeah.
How old is she?
Right in that
9?
area, yeah, that's what I was thinking of, 9-ish.
Like, holy hell.
Yeah.
Like, that's unreal for a third. My daughter's 9 years old.
Yeah.
To think my daughter to go through, that's
Go through all that
unheard of.
in 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That's not over, the course of, a 30-year life or a 40-year life or a 60-year life. 9 years. That's what she goes through.
Yeah. Indeed. All right, so number 3.
Alan says in the chat, Patrick and Insomnia, and then in book 7. Sheesh.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, he's definitely a good one too. John, again, his isn't really in order, but he has Scram from The Long Walk, and then it says in the notes, gets pneumonia while walking.
Oh shit, I forgot about that.
That's a bad one.
Oh,
that's a bad one. Yes, indeed, good pick.
Yeah.
And then Mike has Carrie White from Carrie. Says she's finally is making friends, standing up to her overbearing mother, and maybe having a budding romance, or at least a first love. And of course, a crowd clique couldn't let that stand. Well, the joke is on them and the burning rafters.
Yep.
It's too bad Carrie couldn't have maintained enough calm to leave herself a way out, and maybe drag Tommy with her. So, yeah, definitely, Carrie is a very tragic tale, certainly. So.
Yeah.
Very good pick. And then my number 3 is Randall Flagg.
It's just knee-jerk reaction. I get it.
I mean, yeah, you've got the hat not working in Mordred. You've got the nuke
it is
in
such a
Las Vegas.
Such a gruesome way to go, too.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead and just pluck your eyeball out and hand it to me, and I'm just going to nom.
Dark Tower is probably the biggest one, but I would say even just like, I of course shed a tear for Flagg in Vegas as well.
He survives that.
I mean, he dies and gets reborn, but I don't know. He doesn't really survive. But because Flagg is eternal, sir, he will always be around.
That son of a bitch.
He'll always be around. But yeah, certainly Dark Tower is probably the big one, and it's already been outlined by John. So yes. What do you got for 3?
I actually have Carrie White.
Okay.
So I mean, same reasons, like abused her whole life, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. By a fundamentalist mother. So.
Like that is flat out child abuse is what she does. Like lock her in a closet and everything like that. And I think in the book it actually talks about how sometimes her mother keeps her in there for so long that she like soils herself. Yeah. Like that's so wrong.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
Yeah.
And then like who was it that said it? Mike said it. Okay, I got to keep track of who's going first and who's going second in the fans. And yeah, Mike said finally starting to break out, finally starting to break that yoke of oppression and everything. And then the homecoming happened.
Yeah.
And it's just like.
Yeah, and she was like so hopeful too.
Oh.
That's kind of that like psychological warfare where you let the prisoner think they're escaping, but really they have no chance.
Yeah,
because you're just like you're titillating them with hope and then destroying it.
Yep.
And it's like so she just gets this like almost like ray of sunshine before it all goes to hell.
Oh, dude, you know what book I didn't think about when I was making my list? I didn't think about The Institute.
I did actually. I didn't end up putting Luke on there, but I did consider it.
I was thinking about some of the other ones that didn't make it. That just crossed my mind. I didn't think about that. Damn.
Yeah.
There's a lot, dude.
There is. King is not a nice man. not to his characters, but any good storyteller, that's the truth, right?
True.
Like it'd be boring stories if they were
unicorns
happy.
And rainbows all the time.
So then John, his last one actually, because he does he only gave us 4, which is fine.
Okay.
I think you kept saying 4.
I swear you said 4.
No, we just.
You're like,
no,
we can't do 5.
No,
it's not,
no. You wanted 10 originally.
Yeah.
So I went, no, we can't do 10. 5 is more reasonable, I think. So, and then you kept saying 4. So whether that got in there, or whether that's just what he came up with. But so this is his last one. Is Susan Delgado. He says, "I've always felt bad for Susan, greedy old caw." So indeed, there's multiple reasons for that. Certainly. Then Mike from Pennsylvania has John Coffey from the Green Mile.
Yeah.
He says, number 1, obviously not being executed for, or obviously being executed for double murder and rape he didn't commit would be a good start. 2, having the ability to help others, but knowing it will never be enough, and it's got to be hard on a person, especially a person who seems to be mentally challenged. And then 3, being a gentle person, but feeling the pain and horrors of others, especially the evil others has got to be horribly confusing existence.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. And then my number 2, I'm not going to get any details on, and I have Carol Gerber.
Okay.
So we'll talk about it in a couple weeks when we have our hangout
For Patreon.
Yeah, because you haven't finished it yet. I don't
haven't.
wanna get into too much. But yeah, anyone that's read Hearts in Atlantis knows full well what I'm talking about. So not to.
Oh no.
But I mean, hey, even if it's just the first story, that's a pretty shit experience.
Second one also ends with her thinking that she's going to get disowned by her father. So
There's that too, yeah. But
Yeah.
the first one with the attack from the boys and stuff, like that's one of the most horrific scenes I
That
think
is
King's
bad.
ever written, man. That's
bad.
That's bad, yeah.
The baseball bat.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm going to leave all other conversations for later. But yes, I had to put her on there, man. I thought about trying to leave her off just because I know you're reading it, but no, she deserves it. So
I'm gonna blow your mind with my number 2.
yeah.
Your namesake, Tad Trenton
Oh, okay.
from Cujo.
If you really
Dude.
wanted to shock me, you would have said flag, and
No.
I would probably would have fallen over.
Tad, God, poor kid. Parents are having a rough time. He feels it. They know he feels it. They don't change.
Yeah.
And then his last hours on Earth are
Horror.
basically being tortured.
Yeah.
I mean,
And according to Stephen King, even the movie, if he survived, he still would have died because he got licked by the rabbit.
Exactly. That poor kid.
Yeah.
Like that's heartbreaking to hear. You
Yeah.
know, like that one got me. Like that got me bad when he because I didn't know that. I watched the movie before reading the book. And then when I read the book and he dies, I'm just like,
So you were,
oh my
you
God.
were lulled into a false sense of
I
security.
was lulled into a false sense of security that I knew the ending.
Yeah.
And then the book slapped me in the face and said, "No, you don't."
Yeah.
And he dies.
Yeah.
From heat exhaustion. If she had gone 2 hours earlier, he might have been saved, but she just.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. It's brutal.
That one gets me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, kids, man.
Kids.
It's rough. So again, John doesn't have another one for number 1 because his was not in order anyway.
Sure.
So, Mike, number 1, has Danny Torrance from Dr. Sleep. He says, Danny's my number 1 top 10 King kid. So just giving context,
Okay.
Danny's his favorite. I know Danny dies because he has to destroy the True Knot to make sure they never bother Abba or the others with the shine again. But it just feels wrong, or maybe not wrong, but like he got screwed over. He's finally sober and truly helping people. He's happy and has friends, and in parentheses says a quartet, if you will. He's in AA and probably keeping others who went through what he did, and helping others who went through what he did. He's one of my favorite King characters. I want more stories with him, and I won't get more. Sigh. Without him, I wouldn't be able to annoy. And he says, and without him, I wouldn't be able to annoy my wife by saying red rum. Game, set, match. So, yeah, Danny gets the shaft.
Danny gets the shaft.
Maybe not as bad as some others, but he certainly does.
Yeah, he's one that I thought about, and there is part of me that's like,
And hell, even the shit in The Shining, like the shit with the kid,
the trauma.
the arm.
Yeah, he didn't mention anything about The Shining.
Yeah, no, it was
That's all Dr.
No,
Sleep.
he lists Danny Torrance Dr. Sleep specifically. Yeah. So, but yeah, even then though, in Dr. Sleep, all that shit that happened to him still exists. So it's like broken arm, all of the fucking torments of that hotel,
the abuse from his father when he's drunk,
the freaking topiary animals coming after him. Yeah, that's some brutal shit. His dad dying for him to save him. I mean, that's kind of a good thing, but at the same time,
seeing the good dad come back,
overcome.
Oh
at
God,
the end,
he's redeemed.
but then
Thank
dies.
God, and then dies.
Yeah,
It's like it's the whole Luke and Vader thing. I redeemed him, dead.
Yeah.
Shit.
But that's okay though. I would not want to have been in Luke's position if Vader
God.
lived and you brought him back. Like,
What
hey,
kind of
he's redeemed.
Yeah,
like, Leia's
he's
like,
a good guy. And everyone's like, war criminal.
yeah, pretty much. And then for me, number 1, it's been well documented. Jake Chambers, number 1, man. I mean, is there anybody else on this list that you can say dies 3 times?
Well, that Mike's number 1 was Danny Torrance, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So my number 1, Jake. I mean, if
Dies
nothing else,
3
he dies 3 times, for God's sake. No other character on this list can say that. And then on top of it, like, like was mentioned before, the absent parents. The only one that's really connected to him is his fucking maid. So that kind of gets into that weird thing where, like, you usually see it with adults where it's like, oh, the only one that loves me is the prostitute that I pay. It's the same thing for him. And how much worse is that to have that element of, like, the parental figure is only caring for you because there's a pay check involved. Then, like, the deaths, like, he's outcast from school. He doesn't really have friends.
Barely has acquaintances, he even says.
Yeah, his dad's a shithead. Like, not only absent, but just a shitty person to him. His mom's doped out of her gourd.
I'm sorry, if anyone treats their kid where all they call him is the boy,
yeah.
we need to have a conversation.
Yeah, and then like it was, as was mentioned earlier, you know, then he gets into Roland's world and it's all bad pretty much, including Roland to begin with is pretty terrible. So just overall, like, we've gone through most of it in our book clubs already. We have a little bit more to get through with him, unfortunately, in terms of him getting shit on. But yeah, he just King just like.
That's why
goes above and beyond.
That's why it shocked you so much that he didn't even make the list.
Yeah, number one for me. So certainly. What do you got now to wrap the list?
John Coffey.
Okay, all right.
To be able to do such good, to be such a good person, and to be executed while trying to help. I mean, just think about that for a second.
Yeah,
you're trying to save two little girls' lives who had the worst crimes committed against them.
Yeah.
And you're trying to save them. I couldn't take it back, you know, and everything like that. And then to be executed for that. And his going out message is, there's just too much bad. I can't be in a world where there's too much bad. He's basically committing suicide because there's so much bad in the world.
Yeah.
And that's back then.
Yeah.
Like, that's not this day and
There's
age.
racial issues.
Yep.
There's all kinds of stuff. The other thing I would actually mention is you mentioned that I thought of too. What about the main character in Green Mile? Having to do that
to
get experience of who John Coffey really is, to understand him in a way, and then
find out that he's innocent.
Then have to be the one that basically orders the switch. You know what I mean? And then to be prolonged in life.
Also, you have to look at him while don't put me in the dock again, boss.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
Like,
just
God.
John's bad, but yeah, the Tom Hanks's character. I
see
it's been so long since I've read it. I can't remember his name. But
see, the thing is that
that's a rough one.
The thing for me with a lot of these, and I said it with the It kids, is that, you know, while he suffered that, and there's that psychological trauma with that, he does still go on and live his life and everything like that. That's it for John.
Yeah.
John's,
yeah.
You
but
know,
isn't that almost better though? Like, because when you get that, because I almost think the worst part of Green Mile
that it's haunting you for the rest of your life.
The fact that he like lived, because how long? What he was like unnaturally long lived as well. Like that was like kind of the curse
I haven't read the Green Mile. I only have the movie to go off of, but
that's almost worse, right? We've talked before about like, because I don't think he's immortal necessarily,
but like veterans have that I lived and they didn't, that survivor's guilt.
Yeah, because that's like that. I remember that scene where, you know, that'd make you like 140 something. Unnaturally long life, like that. Yeah, and then you see him burying the woman. All that kind of stuff. So
absolutely, Alan says John Coffey is a saint.
Yeah, indeed. So then the only other thing I wanted to cover is John and Mike both had some things that tail into their emails.
Okay.
John had one, says, which makes me think, did we ever find out what happened to Magus after Gilead fell? And I don't think we did. I don't think we really have a lot of Roland's world.
I think there's one line at the end of when he finishes. I'm trying to remember. I think there's one line that he says, it pulls you back to the campfire. And then he says, Magus is caught up just like the rest of the world and it burns. Or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not good,
like,
but
I think it's in passing that I think it got flattened.
Yeah.
Like the whole rest of the Roland's world.
We'll have to dive into
when
that.
When we get to book 4,
you should make a note of that, and we could look into it and maybe cover it in the next round, because that's going to be a long time before we get there in the book clubs. Probably at least 2 or 3 years from now. So there... Yeah, we can maybe dive into that and see what we can find for the next round table. So then the tail end of Mike's email, he says, P.S., hashtag Tad is accurate. He says, let's get it going, which I like that. Maybe that's the next T-shirt.
No.
He says, Peter, I only poked the bear because I know the bear has a good sense of humor. Otherwise, you and Tad wouldn't have such a great show, which thank you for the kind words.
Yes.
He says, keep up the great work, guys. Then he says, PSS. Tad, make the open challenge link also reference most beloved Dark Tower character event. That this will be really interesting. I can't wait. Unfortunately, that's past now. But it's obviously got its own posts on the website, so you can kind of see it. Hopefully that's there. And then he's got PSSS or something. And he says, Tad, I'm not tech savvy, so I have no idea if this is possible. You should try to have a third screen showing the emails and articles you're reading, but obviously not the email addresses of the center's emails. I honestly don't know if I could really do that. I don't know if we've got a lot of real estate, and you wouldn't want to see what I'm seeing anyway. I don't even read directly from the articles. I have he
copies and pastes it and puts it into a document. And then it's like his notes. Like he goes through and reads the stuff through that. So.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a whole lot to see, honestly. And even right now, this whole list thing, I'm literally looking at a spreadsheet with all these answers typed out. Yeah. So it's nothing to behold at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely not. It's pay no attention to the man behind the curtain type thing. It's, but yes.
So what you're saying is you're Oz.
Okay, so that's it for all these. Thank you guys for answering in,
great.
as well as everyone in the chat. You guys threw out some good ones there. Shimi and Patrick and John Coffey, and yeah, definitely good. Some good character call outs there for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is that'll be it for the episode. Let's go ahead and hit the outro stuff real quick. If you want to subscribe to us, you can do that on any podcasting service. Stream us on Spotify or Stitcher. Find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com, as well as the voting links for the most beloved Dark Tower
round two,
which will be going for another few days. And then, like I said, keep an eye on the YouTube. We'll have a video where we post and recap round 2, and then launch round 3. And then if you want to become a patron, you can do that, patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. And then if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the ways to do that. I will tell you, we are practically empty on emails, so if you want to send those in, it's a good time to where you won't send it now and have us cover it by Christmas. If you send it now, you probably have it done in a close time, especially if we keep up with our normal commitment of an email per episode.
Yeah.
So
our email is darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. You can find our show. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. If you want to join us live, ring the bell, get notifications for when we're going live, subscribe, like the videos. And then our social medias is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Our Twitter is @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And then our Instagram is darktowerpalaver, all one word, no spaces. And then check out our merchandise. It's available at tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver.
indeed. Oi.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. You guys are awesome in the chat. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for all the kind words in there as well. But we will sign off on the podcast side by saying, as we always do, long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
And now that we've got the podcast ended, again, thank you guys in the chat. You guys are awesome. It's always fun to have you guys along, chatting along with us, and answering questions when we lose something in our minds, or you just adding things to the conversation. It's always fun, like different points and stuff, and stabbing Peter in the side. That hasn't happened in this episode really, but it does happen, and it's always a joy for me as well as it probably is for you. So
#Tad is terrible. Extra one for just YouTube. Hey, thanks everyone on YouTube too for watching this.
Yeah. Afterwards,
check us out if you want. Our podcast is available on every major service.
Yeah, and let's see. Let's pull up the old it's on the slideshow. Let's go ahead and pull up that last thing here. So we got through the 16th for the second round. So on the 17th, keep your eye on the YouTube channel here. You will have a post. You guys can't see it.
Can't see it because you're blocking it.
Yeah, but I just wanted to see it myself as well. So the 16th is when this round ends for second round. So go ahead and get your votes in for that. And then on the 17th, probably in the evening, keep an eye out. I will post a video. We don't do those ones live. We just record them and then I'll post them pretty much immediately, where we'll go through, recap round 2, list out what our final 4 looks like, and then shortly out, or basically about the same time that I post the video, I will post the new ballot for round 3, which is the final 4. So be ready for that, and it should be a lot of fun. I love that hashtag Tad is accurate.
No, the one below that, hashtag Tad is terrible, is better.
I haven't seen that one come through yet.
Yeah.
Who did that one? Oh, there you go.
Me.
Slander.
Not no.
And we should, as we usually would say with the sign off, we say long days, pleasant nights, but I also want to say flag is the hero. Long days and pleasant nights, right? To the YouTube folks.
Stop it. Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
He's a great man, that flag.
No, stop it.
See you guys.
Bye, everyone.